In the underworld, a young soul named Jiu Jiu wails with such cosmic despair that reality itself begins to fracture. Her life was a cruel joke, an orphan who finally tasted hope by winning a $5 million lottery, only to be crushed by a suicidal jumper moments later. Her grief is so potent it threatens to collapse the entire afterlife, forcing the exasperated king of hell to intervene. He hastily offers her a deal: stop crying and he'll reincarnate her as a princess, blessed with wealth, glory, and loving parents. With a flicker of hope, Jiu Jiu agrees, and the king scribbles a decree, sending the grieving spirit Jiu Jiu to be reborn as the 18th princess of the Xi Chu kingdom. But paradise is a lie. Jiu Jiu is born into a cold, desolate palace, her mother a forgotten consort framed for treason. To protect her from the emperor who craves a daughter but cannot shield one, her mother decides to raise her as a boy. The crushing reality hits Jiu Jiu like a physical blow: a life of poverty, 17 older brothers, and a mother in disgrace. This wasn't a life of glory, it was another cursed existence. She screams internally at the king of hell's betrayal before collapsing from the shock. 5 years of squalor crawl by, confirming her worst fears. While climbing a rock, she is accosted by a haughty girl, Princess Enyang, who rudely demands she kneel. The name jolts Jiu Jiu's memory, and the horrifying truth dawns on her. She has been reincarnated into a novel. Princess Enyang is the female lead, destined to betray the Xi Chu kingdom and become the empress of another nation. While Jiu Jiu is nothing but cannon fodder, a forgotten child fated to be beaten to death by her own father. The confrontation escalates as Enyang, annoyed by her silence, lunges to strike her. Just then an imposing man arrives, and Enyang instantly switches tactics, crying crocodile tears and accusing Jiu Jiu of theft and assault. This man is Jiu Jiu's father, the tyrant emperor, and he immediately comforts the weeping princess, ordering his attendant to seize the punk who made her cry. Panic floods Jiu Jiu as she realizes her grim fate is at hand. She internally screams that he's her father, that even a vicious tiger won't eat its own cub. The emperor freezes, hearing a voice but seeing no one's lips move. He wonders if he's hearing the child's innermost thoughts. His attendant confirms this worthless child is the 18th prince from the cold palace, and the emperor coldly orders him taken away and beaten to death. Jiu Jiu's mind seethes with rage at the injustice, thinking the tyrant is a fool who can't see through a simple lie, and that it's no wonder his kingdom is destined to fall in 10 years. The emperor is thunderstruck by the prophecy. He halts the execution, realizing he alone can hear this child's voice and that he has something to ask. He turns to Enyang, demanding to know what was stolen. The princess, caught off guard, claims Jiu Jiu stole her gold bracelet and threw it behind a rock. The lie is laughably transparent, and the emperor's expression darkens. He tells Enyang he pampers her endlessly, but he will not tolerate being lied to. Furious at her deception, he orders her taken to the Empress Dowager for discipline. As Jiu Jiu tries to slip away unnoticed, the emperor watches her, his mind reeling. Could the child's inner voice be real? Is this boy a demon or something else entirely? He finds himself staring at the child, noting his handsome features and thinking it's a shame he wasn't born a girl who could be properly doted on. As his attendant leads her away, Jiu Jiu silently fumes, thinking her cheap father is a fool who only just got smart and that he deserves what's coming to him. Soon, the Huzin bridge will collapse and break his legs. The emperor hears this mental curse and his face contorts in rage. But a flicker of pity makes Jiu Jiu stop and tell the attendant to have her father drink some tea by the lake before crossing the bridge. The emperor decides to test this strange prophecy. Heeding the warning, he stops for tea just before the bridge. Moments later, a catastrophic crash echoes through the garden as the entire Huzin bridge collapses into the water. His attendants stare in horror, realizing the emperor was saved by a hair's breadth. The truth crashes down upon him. The child can see the future. This isn't a monster, this is an auspicious sign. He understands now that if he had lost his leg, his kingdom would have fallen even sooner. Dismissing his ministers, he makes a swift decision, his destination now clear: the cold palace. Jiu Jiu returns to her anxious mother, comforting her with promises of a better future. As they embrace, a servant bursts in with frantic news. The emperor is here. Panic grips Jiu Jiu's mother, certain that his unexpected arrival can only mean disaster. Panic erupts in the cold palace as Lai Fei learns the emperor is here. Her face pales with dread, sensing this visit doesn't bode well, and she quickly instructs her young son Jiu Jiu to hide. But Jiu Jiu is surprisingly calm, thinking to himself that his father might be here to take them away. Lai Fei, however, is filled with despair, whispering to Jiu Jiu that they might be stuck here forever. The towering figure of the Emperor Gu Jiu casts a long shadow as he enters the desolate room. His sharp eyes take in the squalor, a place clearly unfit for humans, before landing on Lai Fei and his son kneeling to greet him. He can't help but notice that even dressed so simply, she is as beautiful as ever, like a lotus emerging from clear water. He tells her to rise, his gaze softening for a moment. As he sits, he thinks about how Jiu Jiu saved the day and deserves a reward. but he's wary of revealing the boy's ability to predict the future. Pushing the thought aside, Jiu Jiu makes a stunning announcement. He is reopening the investigation into Lai Fei's supposed treason, and for now, they will both move out of the cold palace. Lai Fei is overcome with gratitude, thanking him for his grace. Hearing this, Jiu Jiu thinks that his cheap dad has finally shown some conscience, hoping he keeps it up. Jiu Jiu's eyebrow twitches as he hears the boy's thoughts, retorting internally that the whole world loves him and he doesn't need a little brat's affection. Yet a pang of something strange hits him when Jiu Jiu's next thought is one of resignation, sighing that his cheap dad definitely doesn't care if he likes him. He's pulled from his thoughts when his eunuch, Fu An, reports that he is being urgently summoned to the study. Before departing, Jiu Jiu orders Fu An to personally help them move and to select the very best items from the storeroom as a reward. As his father leaves, Jiu Jiu's thoughts drift to the front lines, remembering that in the last battle, the Western Chu lost 30,000 soldiers. The thought pierces Jiu Jiu's mind like a bolt of lightning. He freezes, the casual words echoing with doom. 30,000 soldiers lost? A devastating blow. He wonders if this is a sign of his kingdom's impending fall. His attendant urges him to hurry, but Jiu Jiu is paralyzed by the terrible revelation. He glances back, annoyed at the source of his newfound dread. How can Jiu Jiu be thinking about sleep when his father is facing the threat of losing his kingdom? Yet the boy simply yawns and drifts off to sleep, leaving Jiu Jiu stewing in silent panic. Unable to bear the suspense, Jiu Jiu storms back to the sleeping child and shakes him awake. He dismisses a concerned Lai Fei, declaring that he wants to be with his son and ordering everyone else out of the room. Leaning over the drowsy boy, he desperately whispers for Jiu Jiu to tell him what to do about the war. In his sleepy state, Jiu Jiu's thoughts spill out the truth. They are losing because a spy from the Nan country stole their military secrets. The spy is Wei Pin, who pretended to be pregnant to get close to Jiu Jiu and ran to his study every day. The solution, Jiu Jiu thinks, is simple. Create fake military secrets, let her steal them, and turn the war from a defensive one into an active defeat of the Nan country. The idea is so brilliant, so deviously simple that Jiu Jiu is left breathless, a cold fury rising within him as he realizes he almost killed Wei Pin in his anger. With a plan now in mind, he leaves the child to his slumber. A new life begins as Lai Fei, Jiu Jiu, and their loyal nanny Gui pack their things to leave for Qiu Shui Palace. Lai Fei, with newfound authority, decides to bring nanny Gui with them, a decision that brings tears of joy to the old woman's eyes. It is a new beginning for them all. 7 days later in the imperial study, Jiu Jiu reflects on his resounding victory. He followed Jiu Jiu's plan to the letter, forging military secrets for Wei Pin to steal, and then laying an ambush for the Nan army. It was the most effortless victory he'd ever had against them. His ministers praise his brilliant strategy of using a spy to turn defeat into victory. And Jiu Jiu allows himself a smug smile, his thoughts drifting to his son as he orders his carriage to Qiu Shui Palace. But his plans are interrupted by the imperial chaplain who stumbles in and collapses, gasping that he is going to die. With his final breaths, he reveals a terrifying prophecy. He has observed the celestial signs and Xi Chu is destined for destruction. But there is a way to change this fate, the 18th prince. He begs Jiu Jiu to trust and protect Jiu Jiu no matter what. Before Jiu Jiu can process this, the chaplain clutches his chest and dies on the spot. Troubled, Jiu Jiu arrives at Qiu Shui Palace to find Lai Fei and Jiu Jiu playing happily on a swing. He watches them, wondering if the chaplain's death was a punishment from the heavens for revealing secrets. As they greet him, Jiu Jiu internally notes his father's grim expression and remembers the chaplain just passed away. Jiu Jiu freezes, shocked that the child knows about it. He grabs Jiu Jiu, demanding to know if the death was from old age or some other reason. Jiu Jiu's mind screams that it was just old age. Immensely relieved, Jiu Jiu is overcome with emotion and kisses the boy's cheek. Jiu Jiu is absolutely mortified, wailing internally that he's been kissed by this old man and is no longer clean. Amused and annoyed by the boy's dramatic reaction, Jiu Jiu pulls him into another crazy kiss. Lai Fei then joins in, and the two of them shower a dizzy Jiu Jiu with affection. In that moment, Jiu Jiu's mind reveals he had no parents in his previous life and is only now feeling the beauty of family. Hearing this, both parents are deeply moved, promising to always cherish him. Their happy moment is interrupted when Jiu Jiu asks to wear his new clothes, forcing Lai Fei to gently remind him that her name is not yet cleared and his grandparents remain in exile. Their position is still fragile. Just then, a servant announces that King Fei is coming to visit. Jiu Jiu's internal alarms blare. He knows King Fei is an enemy and associate of concubine Jiang. Her modus operandi is to befriend a favored concubine only for that concubine to die, and he fears for his mother's life. Lai Fei, however, is no fool. She coolly instructs her servants not to prepare anything special, remembering how King Fei ignored her for years in the cold palace. Elsewhere, concubine Jiang gives King Fei her orders: get close to Lai Fei and then kill them both. King Fei arrives at Qiu Shui Palace with a saccharine smile, calling Lai Fei her dear sister. Lai Fei remains composed and distant, inviting her. Irritated by the cold shoulder, King Fei moves to hug Jiu Jiu, but Lai Fei swiftly blocks her path, stating that the child is shy. King Fei then begins a campaign of pity, complaining about her own shabby palace, and how the ministry ignores her because she has no children, before insinuating Lai Fei is being selfish with her fine clothes. Her solution? To move into Qiu Shui Palace with them. When Lai Fei remains unmoved, King Fei's facade cracks, accusing her of being cold and trying to end their friendship. She smirks, confident Lai Fei won't dare refuse her publicly, but Lai Fei calmly orders her maids to escort the guest out. King Fei's face contorts in rage as she's led away, screeching that Lai Fei will regret this. With King Fei's crisis resolved, Lady Lai's attention turns to the two boys lingering nervously outside her door. A servant reports that the 10th and 11th princes are here, but they dare not enter. Jiu Jiu looks on as her mother's face remains cold, wondering why she dislikes them so much. In her heart, she knows the truth. The two were fiercely loyal to their 13th brother, trying to rescue people after he got into trouble, a selfless act that cost him his own life and chance at a family. Believing her mother is unaware of their noble character, Jiu Jiu pleads with her to let them in, reminding her how good they were to their brother. Softening at her child's words, Lady Lai agrees. The two princes enter, timidly congratulating her on her release from the cold palace and promising to deal with the matter of their 13th brother. Lady Lai surprises them both by inviting them for tea, an offer that leaves them stunned. They'd only ever received scoldings from her before. She explains that 3 years in the cold palace taught her about the fickleness of human nature and that she now understands their true intentions, admitting her past ignorance. As Jiu Jiu is introduced to her new royal brothers, she's privately impressed by how handsome they are. The princes are shocked to hear her thoughts, vowing to protect her and keep her secret. They playfully argue over who gets to hold her, only to be interrupted by the sudden arrivals of the emperor, who smirks at the lively scene. He casually plucks Jiu Jiu from the 10th prince's arms, noticing the boy's unhappy expression and offering to help him deal with whoever irritated him. The prince panics, quickly claiming his stomach hurts from eating something bad. Jiu Jiu, sensing his distress, interjects, telling her father that she wants to have dinner with her brothers because they get stomachaches when hungry. Delighted by her request, the emperor agrees, leaving the two princes overjoyed at the prospect of their first meal with their father. At the dinner table, however, they barely touch their food, too intimidated by the emperor's presence. Jiu Jiu notices their fear, and also the way her father is looking at her mother with a lustful intensity. An expression she mentally compares to a horny goat, causing the entire table to go stiff. To diffuse the awkwardness, she offers a carrot to the emperor, telling him to eat more so he won't look at her mother with such wicked eyes. The meal is interrupted when a servant reports that Princess Anyang is kneeling outside in the rain, begging for forgiveness. The emperor's face hardens, and he coldly declares that she can kneel if she wants. Outside, Anyang's parents are horrified to find their daughter shivering in the downpour, urging her to come home. But Anyang refuses, vowing to stay until she receives the emperor's forgiveness, knowing her entire future hangs in the balance. When a servant informs the emperor that Prince Duan is trying to take his daughter away, a cruel smile spreads across his face. Jiu Jiu watches, realizing her father sees this as a pathetic attempt at blackmail. The emperor declares that if they are threatening to leave, he will gladly grant their wish, promptly issuing a decree to have the entire family expelled from the palace, never to return without a summons. In a final, desperate gambit, Anyang slams her head against a water tank, collapsing to the ground. The news of her fainting reaches the emperor, who couldn't care less. He dismisses her as someone else's daughter, declaring he has his own princess before turning his unnerving attention to Jiu Jiu, holding up a beautiful girl's dress. He offers a reward of 500 taels if she wears it. While the servants brace for a tantrum, Jiu Jiu's eyes light up with the glint of gold coins, and she eagerly agrees. Transformed into an adorable little girl, she looks stunning in the mirror. The emperor is completely enchanted, asking if she would be willing to dress like this from now on. Seizing the opportunity, Jiu Jiu happily agrees, much to her father's delight. Later, while swinging with her brothers, Jiu Jiu is reassured by them that they will protect her from any gossip. She then cryptically tells them to meet her at the elephant room the next day, hinting that their future success depends on it. The next morning, she explains her plan internally. The crown prince is about to be attacked by an elephant in heat, an event that would lead him to fall for the manipulative Feng Keiwei. Just as she predicted, the crown prince arrives, and a massive elephant goes berserk, smashing his carriage. The prince is thrown to the ground, helpless before the rampaging beast. At the last second, the 10th prince distracts the elephant with fruit, while the 11th prince shoves the crown prince to safety, taking a blow himself. The 10th prince then cleverly lures the beast into a cage with a large fruit basket, finally ending the chaos. As peace is restored, Jiu Jiu spots Princess Anyang hiding nearby, realizing the girl was just waiting to steal the credit for the rescue. Back in the palace, the awakened crown prince insists to his father that it was his 11th brother who saved him. But the servants, all bribed, claim it was Princess Anyang, begging the emperor to reward her. Enraged by their lies, the emperor orders them to be dragged out and executed, but his fury is cut short by news that Jiu Jiu has fainted. He rushes to her side, finding her safe and sound. Jiu Jiu explains the entire truth, and the emperor praises his two sons for their bravery, appointing them to assist the crown prince. Meanwhile, in the East Palace, Princess Anyang smugly awaits her reward, certain she has secured her position. But instead of praise, a royal decree arrives. It declares that for falsely claiming credit and deceiving the emperor, she is stripped of her title, her engagement is annulled, and she is to be banished from the palace forever. The news hits her like a physical blow, her world crumbling around her in an instant. The crown prince internally credits his success to his three younger brothers, who in turn call little Jiu Jiu their lucky star and eagerly try to shower her with kisses. But Jiu Jiu playfully dodges their affection, complaining that being kissed every day is simply exhausting. Her lighthearted escape is cut short by a sudden dazzling presence. The 18th brother, the prince, has arrived. Her heart flutters at how handsome he is, but her adoration is shattered by a frantic inner voice that isn't her own. Inside his mind, the prince is in turmoil, realizing he can hear her thoughts and desperately trying to rationalize this impossible reality. He moves forward, asking for a hug, but Jiu Jiu's inner voice screams a shocking revelation. The prince is injured, and more importantly, he isn't a brother at all, but the 18th sister. She mentally panics, reminding him that he's a boy and that it's his father's fault he's dressed as a woman, warning him not to lose his own identity. Touched by her concern, the prince silently swears an oath to protect her brothers who risk their lives for him, vowing to be struck by lightning if he fails. Jiu Jiu, meanwhile, laments his tragic fate from the book she knows, where he's dragged to his death by a woman named Feng Keiwei. Later, during a tense dinner, her father announces that the queen mother and the dreaded consort Xu are returning. A cold fury grips Jiu Jiu as she remembers Xu is the very woman who framed her mother for treason. She inwardly despairs, wondering how she can possibly eat when her family's name is still tarnished. To escape the suffocating atmosphere, she asks her father to see butterflies in the garden, and he indulges her childish request. There, among the flowers, they overhear two servants gossiping about how concubine Lai and Jiu Jiu will surely be banished to the cold palace upon the queen mother's return. The emperor's face turns to stone, he dismisses Jiu Jiu and stalks away, his mind consumed by a chilling rage as he orders the guards to drag the gossips away, cut out their tongues, and beat them to death. The next day, as they await the royal return, Jiu Jiu nervously asks her mother if the queen mother will hate them. Her mother offers a gentle smile, reassuring her that it was the queen mother who once saved both their lives. The emperor arrives, confidently stating that his mother will adore Jiu Jiu, and an announcer heralds the queen mother's arrival. The procession is intimidating, with the queen mother looking incredibly stern and imposing. Jiu Jiu is immediately terrified by her fierce aura. The emperor introduces Jiu Jiu, taking full responsibility for dressing her as a girl. But the queen mother is stunned, not by the clothes, but by the fact that she can hear the child's terrified thoughts. Her harsh expression instantly melts, and she chides her son for not telling her about this lovely princess sooner. She pulls Jiu Jiu into a warm embrace, declaring that anyone can see she's a beautiful little girl, and presents her with a gift of golden bracelets. Jiu Jiu beams, declaring she loves her grandmother the most, earning a grumble from her father about her being a little money grubber. The moment is interrupted by Xu, who arrives to greet the emperor, only to be coldly rebuffed when she tries to take Jiu Jiu from his arms. At the family dinner, Xu desperately tries to win the emperor's favor, offering him a toast and inviting him to her palace for the night. Jiu Jiu watches with disgust, praying her father won't fall for the act and forget about clearing her mother's name. Xu presses on, offering sobering soup and promising to wait for him. But she waits in vain. A panicked servant reports that the emperor ignored her and instead went to concubine Lifei's palace with many gifts. Xu's mask of demureness shatters, and she explodes with rage, smashing a vase as she screams about being abandoned for that woman. She fumes that Lifei should have been executed for treason and vows to destroy her this time. But it was all a trap. The emperor smirks from the shadows, his plan having worked perfectly to expose her vicious nature. He declares he won't just send her to the cold palace this time, he will grind her into dust. He materializes in her chambers, his presence a storm of cold fury. She drops to her knees, but he doesn't listen to her pathetic excuses, instead striking her across the face. He informs her that he's never hit a woman before, but she is the first because she disgusts him. Ignoring her desperate pleas of jealousy, he summons the guards and issues a decree to the entire palace. Xu is stripped of her title for framing others and banished to the cold palace for treason. He then officially redresses the injustice, announcing that Li Fei and her family have been pardoned. Later that night, as Jiu Jiu rests with her mother, a reward from the emperor arrives unexpectedly. It is the emperor himself, his eyes heavy with remorse as he stands before Li Fei, finally apologizing for having wronged her for so many years and revealing that he heard Xu Fei's confession with his own ears. When her mother insists that she bears no blame, the emperor presses the issue, asking if she truly doesn't blame him. She takes the fault upon herself, prompting Jiu Jiu to wonder if her cheap dad has suddenly fallen for her mom. The emperor dismisses Jiu Jiu as a silly brat who knows nothing of such matters, but Jiu Jiu knows an emperor has no likes or dislikes, only calculations. Seeing her mother's blush, Jiu Jiu suggests the emperor should leave as it's late, but he declares his wish to stay the night. She offers him the side hole, a clear rejection that makes his face fall. Just as he's about to give up, Jiu Jiu cleverly offers herself as a substitute, promising to follow him. Her mother is stunned as the emperor smirks, taking his child with him, while Jiu Jiu internally panics that she's now a hostage because her mother rejected him. The next morning, Jiu Jiu wakes with a yawn, only to be told that her father is taking her to the morning court, an announcement that leaves her utterly shocked. The emperor carries her proudly to the throne, wanting the entire world to see his adorable daughter, even if she's secretly a boy. But the court's pleasantries are shattered by the sight of a shackled man being dragged forward. The prisoner is General Zhu Yi, and the emperor's voice is ice as he recounts the repeated defeats against Western Chu. He demands to know the punishment for such incompetence, and the general stoically replies that he deserves death. Jiu Jiu's mind races, she knows the truth from the book. The general was poisoned and controlled by a spy named Wei Fei, his loyalty never wavering. She recalls his tragic past. His sons all died in battle, and to spare his captured wife from humiliation, he was forced to kill her with his own bow. The emperor's expression shifts subtly, a flicker of shock in his eyes as Jiu Jiu's thoughts reach him. The court officials, however, see only failure, calling for the general's immediate execution. Jiu Jiu fumes silently, seeing them as useless yes-men goading her father into killing a loyal subject. She knows this single act will doom the Xi Chu state within a decade, leaving them defenseless. The emperor's face is a grim mask of contemplation, but then he gently sets Jiu Jiu down, assuring her he will handle it. With chilling authority, he orders a full investigation into the general's defeats, placing Zhu Yi in jail for now and ordering the director of the Imperial Hospital to treat him. General Zhu looks up in disbelief. Jiu Jiu inwardly panics again, knowing the chief doctor is an ally of the spy Wei Fei. As if hearing her thoughts, the emperor corrects his order, sending the deputy dean instead and confining the chief dean to the harem. Jiu Jiu is filled with admiration. Her father is far wiser than the tyrant described in the book, and she plants an appreciative kiss on his cheek. The emperor smiles, pleased that he saved a loyal minister today, while a giddy Jiu Jiu playfully tugs at his hair, unbothered by a eunuch's protest. Later, while her father works, Jiu Jiu ponders the conspiracy, realizing someone must have intentionally kept the emperor in the dark to orchestrate General Zhu's downfall. The emperor, sensing her concern, sends her back to her mother, promising to investigate thoroughly. He then meets General Zhu in private, urging him to speak freely. The general finally breaks his silence, naming Imperial Guard Qian Wengxin as a spy for the Nan Kingdom who sabotaged his campaigns. The emperor promises to uncover the truth himself, and the subsequent investigation reveals a horrifying depth of betrayal. A furious emperor reads the report, learning of Qian Wengxin's treachery that nearly sold out the entire empire. With spies in both his court and his harem, he marvels that Xi Chu didn't perish sooner. Seeing now that his survival was a blessing from the gods, he thinks of Jiu Jiu, his lucky star, the savior of the entire Xi Chu empire. He immediately asks for her, only to learn she is with the crown prince, who is managing the diplomatic reception for the defeated Nan Kingdom. Jiu Jiu is indeed with her brother, but she's nearly dizzy from reading a dense book. Her exhaustion vanishes when the crown prince calls for an attendant named JR, a name that sends a jolt of pure dread through her. She knows this woman is a spy, a poisoner sent to destroy the prince and Xi Chu. JR enters with a serene smile, but Jiu Jiu remembers her sinister plot to poison a Nan Kingdom envoy and frame Xi Chu, turning their hard-won victory into a humiliating defeat. The crown prince is trapped, knowing that if the envoy dies, all their sacrifices will be for nothing. He dismisses the girl and spirals into despair, contemplating drinking the poison himself to thwart the plot, even if it means his own death. He laments that he would die without even meeting the woman Jiu Jiu told him about. At that moment, Jiu Jiu proposes a brilliant counterplan. The prince should let himself be poisoned, but only after secretly securing the antidote from the envoy, allowing them to expose the entire scheme. The prince is stunned by the simple genius of it, and gratefully kisses his clever little sister, calling her his lucky star. Not leaving anything to chance, Jiu Jiu begins preparing a universal antidote using knowledge from her past life. Her father arrives and is amused by her playing with medicine, indulging her by ordering the entire Imperial Hospital's supply sent for her use. When she struggles with a heavy pestle, the mighty emperor himself steps in to help her grind the herbs, much to the shock of his attendants. With his help, her universal antidote is complete. After her hard work, her father announces it's time for lunch, where she is treated with the utmost care. For the first time, she feels like a true princess, and she leans over to kiss her father's cheek in gratitude. The emperor and the crown prince dote on her, surrounding her with a warmth she's never known. 3 days later, a grand palace banquet is held where envoys from the Xuanan kingdom arrive, claiming to be there for peace talks with the emperor of Xi Chu. The emperor, holding his young daughter Jiu Jiu, graciously invites them to be seated. To show sincerity, the lead envoy makes a show of refusing wine, stating he has a precious daughter at home and doesn't like the smell of alcohol. Opting for tea instead, a move the emperor finds transparently obvious. Jiu Jiu sips her own tea, sensing something is deeply wrong with the situation. Suddenly, the ambassador clutches his chest, coughing up black blood before collapsing to the floor dead. His men immediately point accusing fingers, shouting that Xi Chu has poisoned their ambassador and demanding the Supreme Alliance make a decision for them. The emperor's brother, the prince, is bewildered by the sudden chaos. But the emperor himself remains perfectly calm, having already anticipated this treachery. In his arms, Jiu Jiu's voice echoes in the minds of her blood relatives, a phenomenon they take as an auspicious sign, though it's actually her using her power to guide her family. The prince, now composed, assures everyone that he will handle the situation, revealing that thanks to Jiu Jiu's strategy, he had already found the antidote at the envoy's post. He turns to the accusers, declaring that Xi Chu would never stoop to poisoning envoys, challenging them to make their next move. The situation is interrupted by the arrival of Liu Jing, the alliance chief, who has come to mediate the dispute. He demands to know if the Xi Chu royal family has anything to say for themselves. The envoys press their advantage, demanding that Xi Chu cede territory, pay compensation, and offer a formal apology. But the prince cuts them off, coldly stating his opinion. They poison themselves to slander his kingdom. As the emperor rises, a glint of steel in his eyes, Jiu Jiu knows the true purpose of the plot wasn't to gain territory, but to force a defeat. When the envoy demands evidence for such a wild accusation, the prince simply states that he has it. Producing a small porcelain bottle, he announces that he found the antidote for their poison at the place where the envoy was staying. The envoy scoffs, denying the bottle belongs to them. So the prince summons the imperial physician. He hands the physician the antidote, proposing a simple test. If he can identify the poison from the antidote, the truth will be revealed. The physician uncorks the bottle and sniffs, immediately recognizing the scent of red thorn poison, a substance exclusive to the Nan Kingdom's royal family that can only be prepared by them. To be certain, he takes a small taste and confirms it is, without a doubt, the antidote. The alliance chief is stunned. He whirls on the Nan Kingdom envoys, demanding they confess to poisoning themselves. Trapped and exposed, the envoys fall to their knees, admitting they were wrong and begging for forgiveness. The emperor smirks, noting how quickly their arrogance has turned to groveling. The alliance chief declares that for their shameless act, the Nan Kingdom must now pay double the compensation originally demanded. With the plot foiled, the court erupts in congratulations for their victorious emperor. The emperor's brother reflects on how Jiu Jiu's foresight helped him avoid a crisis that could have cost him his title as crown prince. The emperor joyfully sweeps Jiu Jiu into his arms, but his brother quickly protests, demanding his sister back after the emperor has been holding her for so long. As they bicker, Jiu Jiu telepathically warns her father that there is a spy from the Nan Kingdom in their house, a detail they have yet to uncover. The rest of the court, enchanted by the princess, crowds around, with various relatives asking to take Jiu Jiu home to raise her for a while. Jiu Jiu is internally disgusted by the idea, feeling like a monkey being passed around for entertainment. She clings to her father, absolutely refusing to go with any of them. King Ning is particularly insistent, arguing she's 5 years old and perfectly capable of visiting. But the emperor's face darkens, and he warns his brother for overstepping his bounds. King Ning immediately backs down and apologizes. The Empress Dowager steps in to smooth things over, but another relative, Prince Su, uses the opportunity to ask her for the rare oriental pearl. The court is aghast as the pearl belongs to the late Queen Mother's effects, but Jiu Jiu knows the truth. The lecherous old man wants it for his new young concubine. Her unfiltered thought makes the Empress Dowager blush. Prince Su pleads his case, claiming it as his only wish as an 80-year-old man. The court begs the emperor to refuse, knowing the scandal it would cause if a concubine wore the empress's gems. Cornered, Prince Su threatens to kill himself right there in the hall if he is denied. putting the emperor in an impossible situation due to a past promise to protect him. The emperor mentally pleads for Jiu Jiu to think of a solution. He notices she seems sleepy, but she is actually recalling the future. Prince Su's obsession with this concubine will lead to the deaths of all 7 of his sons. Suddenly, Jiu Jiu speaks, cheerfully telling Prince Su that her father agrees to his request. Prince Su is overjoyed, but Jiu Jiu adds that it will take some time for the pearl to be delivered, asking if he can wait. The old man readily agrees, and the emperor smirks, realizing his brilliant daughter is buying them time. The emperor then adds that since only 2 such pearls can be mined every 40 years, he will give the very next one to Prince Su as soon as it arrives, a promise everyone heard. Trapped, Prince Su can only agree and leave in a huff. Jiu Jiu watches him go, knowing that his beautiful concubine is about to kill one of his sons within the next 2 days. As she predicted, a few days later, a funeral procession carries the coffin of Prince Su's son from his home. The concubine, Caixia, internally celebrates, believing Prince Su's heir must now come from her. The realization of the princess's warning finally hits Prince Su, and he screams for his men to find the 18th princess immediately. He finds Jiu Jiu happily tending to her fish by a pond. He remembers her words with a sinking feeling of dread, but his pride prevents him from admitting he was wrong. He tries to convince himself it was just a coincidence. Jiu Jiu is confused, asking her mother why Prince Su ran away the moment he saw her. Just then, her father arrives, wrapping them both in his arms and chiding his wife for being out in the cold without a proper coat. Jiu Jiu snuggles into his chest, enjoying his warmth and the scent of fine agarwood. The emperor is so utterly charmed that he immediately orders his personal, exclusive sinking water incense to be given to the princess. An unprecedented honor that shocks his attendant. Jiu Jiu knows that sooner or later her father will give her anything she wants. Elsewhere in the palace, 2 noblewomen gossip about the princess's favor, one wondering why the emperor dotes on her so. The other sneers, refusing to believe a wise emperor could be so superficial as to favor a child just for being pretty. A wicked idea forms in her mind as she suggests they summon Princess King, the beautiful adopted daughter of the late emperor, certain she will win the emperor's favor and banish Jiu Jiu's mother to the cold palace. Jiu Jiu waits impatiently, wondering why her cheap father hasn't arrived yet, despite his promise to tell her a story. She complains to her mother, who reassures her that the emperor is not one to break his word, but Jiu Jiu decides he'll owe her 2 stories as punishment for being late. Just then, a summons arrives from the emperor, inviting Princess 18 to the imperial garden. A spark of excitement ignites in Jiu Jiu's eyes, certain her father has prepared a wonderful surprise for her. She happily skips alongside her mother through the beautiful garden, spotting her father in the distance with another woman and child. But as she runs toward him, her mother is abruptly stopped by the conceited Jiang Fei. The concubine sneers, warning Princess Lai that the emperor's favor is as fleeting as the wind, gesturing towards a prettier girl named Princess Annel. She cruelly threatens that once Jiu Jiu is cast aside, they will both be thrown back into the cold palace to live a miserable life. Rage boils within Jiu Jiu at the threat to her mother, but she keeps her composure, silently vowing that Jiang Fei will pay. The confrontation escalates as Jiang Fei insults everyone around her, culminating in Princess Annel running to the emperor and demanding he pamper her instead of the ugly bastard Jiu Jiu. The emperor's face turns to ice. Without a moment's hesitation, he orders his guard Fun to have Princess Annel slapped 50 times, his mind flashing with his deep-seated hatred for her mother, Princess King. His cold gaze then falls upon Jiang Fei, and he declares she has been deposed and banished to the cold palace, never to be seen again. He turns to find Jiu Jiu, who rushes into his waiting arms, telling him how much she missed him while Jiang Fei is dragged away screaming. He asks Jiu Jiu if she was scared, and she puts on a brave face, claiming she's fearless with him by her side, though internally she was terrified. The emperor sees the lingering fear in her mother's eyes and promises to always protect them, a gesture that impresses Jiu Jiu. Later, as a self-imposed punishment for being late, he reads to Jiu Jiu, promising to do so for a month, which fills her with glee. Their quiet evening is shattered when Prince Su's son bursts in, carrying his unconscious father on a stretcher. He explains his brother died and the stress caused Prince Su to faint, but not before calling out for Jiu Jiu. The old prince awakens, begging to speak with her. The emperor, knowing the man's schemes, is wary, but Prince Su reveals he knows Jiu Jiu can hear thoughts, forcing the emperor's hand. A deal is struck. The emperor will help save his sons if he keeps Jiu Jiu's secret and kills his troublesome concubine back home. Prince Su agrees, consumed by regret for not heeding Jiu Jiu's earlier, annoyed advice about his family's endless problems. Back in the present, Jiu Jiu complains about Prince Su's constant gossiping, and her father promises to ban him from the palace. To cheer her up, he announces he's throwing her a grand birthday party, entrusting the plans to the crown prince. Jiu Jiu's eyes light up as she asks for snacks from outside the palace, things she never had in her past life, making the emperor wonder about her mysterious history. Her mother gently chides him for spoiling her, but he proudly states that if he won't spoil his own daughter, who will, and immediately orders the imperial kitchen to prepare a feast of treats. On the day of the party, Jiu Jiu awakens and marvels at her reflection, giddily calling herself a beautiful little fairy. She compliments her equally stunning mother as they prepare for the banquet. While her mother steps away for tea, Jiu Jiu wanders outside looking for her friend Yuanian, only to discover a girl named Feng Keiwei viciously kicking another girl on the ground. Jiu Jiu recognizes the victim as her cousin, Nan Yuanxiang, and a protective fury overtakes her. She confronts Feng Keiwei, who scoffs at their relation, calling her cousin a poor creature no one cares about. Jiu Jiu's eyes burn with murderous intent as she warns the bully to apologize or face the consequences. When Feng Keiwei defiantly refuses, Jiu Jiu summons the guards without hesitation. She calmly accuses Feng Keiwei of beating her cousin and orders her thrown out of the palace immediately, an order the guards quickly obey. She then comforts her crying cousin, offering to get her a doctor. But the drama is far from over, as Feng Keiwei's furious parents are already kneeling before the emperor, demanding to know what crime is committed when someone dares to throw their daughter out of the palace. The emperor's voice cuts through the banquet hall, demanding to know who dares to be so arrogant on such a happy day. Prince Duan, kneeling on the floor, challenges the emperor, asking if he would punish a noble with the same severity as a commoner. With the full support of the Queen Mother, the emperor confirms that justice is blind, giving Prince Duan the confidence to make his accusation. He claims that Princess Jiu Jiu, relying on the emperor's favor, has become unreasonable and threw his daughter Feng Keiwei out of the palace. The emperor's face darkens, realizing this entire confrontation is aimed at his daughter. The ministers chime in, agreeing that such arrogance must be punished as a warning to others. But the emperor's patience snaps. He roars that he is tired of their one-sided accusations and demands that someone find the princess immediately so he can uncover the truth. Elsewhere, the young Princess Jiu Jiu arrives, much to the delight of her father. Prince Duan seizes the opportunity, demanding she be punished severely for her actions. The emperor calmly turns to his daughter, asking if she truly drove Feng Keiwei away for no reason. Jiu Jiu, with tears in her eyes, explains the full story. Feng Keiwei and her maid had beaten her little cousin Nan Yuanxiang, breaking her bones, and then arrogantly refused to apologize. Enraged by their cruelty, Jiu Jiu had no choice but to kick them out. Hearing this, the emperor's judgment is swift and merciless. He declares Feng Keiwei abused her privilege and is a disgrace, fining her a year's salary and banning her from the banquet entirely. Jiu Jiu is ecstatic, thinking her father handled the situation perfectly, and she vows to protect her cousin and make lots of money with her. Soon after, the princess's birthday banquet begins in earnest, and Jiu Jiu marvels at the mountains of treasures presented as gifts. Her father, the emperor, points out a beautiful coral bracelet before asking where her mother is. Just then, a stunning woman named Li Fei arrives. The emperor shares wonderful news, revealing that her family has been exonerated of treason and her father and brother have been reinstated, allowing them to finally be reunited. The family shares a happy meal, a picture of perfect harmony. While eating, Jiu Jiu remembers a crucial event from her past life. At this very banquet, the noble Lady Yuanian was framed for spying on a foreign man, earning the crown prince's disgust. Knowing the truth that she was only saving a baby bird, Jiu Jiu decides she must intervene to save the woman her brother was destined to love. She finds her brother, the crown prince, and they soon spot Yuanian high up in a tree, gently coaxing a frightened bird back into its nest. But their quiet observation is interrupted by Nan Baolin, who maliciously tells the crown prince she brought him here to witness Yuanian's inappropriate behavior and to punish her. Startled by their arrival, Yuanian slips and falls from the branch. But the crown prince moves like lightning, catching her gracefully in his arms. Nan Baolin presses her attack, demanding punishment. But Jiu Jiu speaks up, urging her brother not to be deceived by wicked people and to listen to Miss Yu's explanation. The crown prince, amused by his little sister's fierce defense, agrees. He reassures the flustered Yuanian that he will believe her, and she explains she was only trying to save a bird. When Nan Baolin demands proof, Jiu Jiu angrily shouts that she saw the bird with her own eyes. The crown prince's expression turns cold as he furiously orders the disrespectful concubine to be slapped 50 times for spreading rumors and questioning the royal family. With the matter settled, Jiu Jiu sweetly asks if Miss Yu can stay with them for a while. An invitation the crown prince happily extends. As he carries his sister, he finds himself captivated by Yuanian's beauty, while Jiu Jiu desperately wants to touch the pretty lady's face but can't reach. Misunderstanding her gesture, Yuanian offers Jiu Jiu a small birthday gift. To save his sister from embarrassment, the crown prince leans in and whispers to a shocked Yuanian that *he* wants to touch her face. before quickly clarifying it was Jiu Jiu's wish. The utterly flustered Yuanian makes a hasty retreat, leaving Jiu Jiu heartbroken and in tears, believing she is disliked. The crown prince tries to console her but fails, and ends up apologizing to the emperor for making his sister cry. The emperor, realizing that even with her memories Jiu Jiu is still a child, coaxes her with a chicken leg which immediately lifts her spirits. Feeling better, Jiu Jiu resolves to win Sister Yu over on her own terms, and runs off to find her. She accidentally bumps into the eldest prince, a man she knows is fated to be beheaded in battle in 10 years. To his shock, he hears her inner thoughts and furiously demands to know what nonsense she is spouting. He storms off, but not before Jiu Jiu's inner voice predicts he will fall and lose his front teeth. The prince scoffs at the idea, only to trip and fall flat on his face just as the emperor arrives, his front teeth now missing. As he despairs over his humiliation, Jiu Jiu cleverly defends him, blaming his fall on the cumbersome formal robes. The emperor accepts this, changing the palace dress code and sending his son to be treated, leaving the eldest prince stunned by Jiu Jiu's unexpected mercy. Jiu Jiu then finds Yuanian and sits with her content. Yuanian mentions that the dancers are from the defeated Nan kingdom, sent as tribute, along with a young hostage. A chill runs down Jiu Jiu's spine as she realizes this hostage is the very man who will one day destroy their entire kingdom. And a wave of panic washes over her. Jiu Jiu knows she cannot stand by and watch her country be destroyed, not after coming to this world and finding a family that loves her. Filled with a desperate urgency, she asks Sister Jin where the hostages are being taken, but Jin doesn't know, merely stating it was His Majesty's arrangement and that Jiu Jiu should focus on her birthday party. But there's no time for parties, this is too important. Jiu Jiu feels a frantic need to find her father immediately and runs off to do just that. She finds him in his study, and he's overjoyed to see her, remarking that she came just in time to accompany him on a visit to her big brother. They find the eldest prince being tended to by his mother, Huifei, a woman known for her excellent medical skills. Jiu Jiu's father scoffs that the boy only ever shows concern for him, completely ignoring his own daughter, but the prince simply thanks Jiu Jiu for her worry. Huifei explains that her son is just shy and embarrassed because of his missing teeth. The prince bristles, insisting he's fine and doesn't care about his teeth at all, his outburst startling Jiu Jiu. The emperor sternly tells his son he's not a child anymore and shouldn't scare his little sister, then dismisses them to let the boy rest. Walking away, Jiu Jiu tells her father not to distance himself from her brother, and he just smiles, saying he was only giving him a gentle reminder. Seeing her chance, Jiu Jiu asks about the hostage from the Nan kingdom. Her father's expression darkens as he warns her that it's safer to stay away, but Jiu Jiu insists, revealing that this is about the impending fall of Xi Chu. The emperor is stunned, realizing this matter is far more serious than he thought, and that Jiu Jiu will be consumed with worry until it's resolved. He finally tells her the boy is in Jigyun Hall, but makes her promise to tell him if the hostage hurts her. Jiu Jiu arrives at the desolate hall, a place as bleak as the cold palace, and understands why her father was so worried. She remembers this is where the hero of the story, Dai Jiang, suffered the humiliation that ignited his quest for revenge. The guards try to stop her, but she declares her father gave her permission and one agrees to escort her. She refuses their help, confident a boy of only 8 or 9 can't harm her, and steps inside alone. There, kneeling in the cold, is a boy with haunted purple eyes. She knows this must be him, Dai Jiang. She rushes forward, asking why he's kneeling, but as she reaches out, he flinches away from her touch. The guards explain the emperor ordered him to kneel for a month as a show of force against the Nan kingdom. A horrifying realization dawns on Jiu Jiu. This cruel punishment is the cause of the permanent leg injuries that plague Dai Jiang in the book, the source of the unending pain that fuels his massacre of her entire family. She tells him she can't let him up just yet since it's her father's order, but she promises to go speak to the emperor and that she will definitely come back for him. Dai Jiang watches her leave, his heart sinking with disbelief, convinced she's just making an excuse to leave and that no one will ever help him. Jiu Jiu bursts into her father's room, who fusses over her, asking if someone bullied her. She cuts right to the chase, demanding to know why he ordered the hostage to kneel for a month. Her father's protective rage flares, assuming the boy hurt her, but he explains it was a necessary political move. Jiu Jiu desperately argues that this will only make Dai Jiang resent them, a grudge he will repay 1,000 times over because he is a son of destiny destined to destroy their kingdom. The emperor is shocked, realizing the rumors about the hostage being the key to Xi Chu's destruction were true, and his immediate, furious conclusion is that the boy should have been killed on the spot. Jiu Jiu frantically stops him, arguing they can't kill him without looking ruthless, and more importantly, that he's the hero of the original book and cannot be killed. She appeals to him, suggesting that giving Dai Jiang a chance is better than creating an enemy who holds a grudge. Moved by her words, her father finally relents, agreeing the hostage will no longer have to kneel and will be treated normally. Back at Jigyun Hall, Dai Jiang is still kneeling, hope draining away, when he hears a voice welcoming the princess and looks up to see her returning, a brilliant light in the cold courtyard. She announces that her father has canceled the punishment. When he doesn't move, she grows concerned, asking if his legs are too hurt to stand. Dai Jiang is utterly stunned, wondering if there is truly someone in this world who cares about him. Jiu Jiu brings in an imperial physician who confirms the injury is superficial. Relieved, she leads him inside where a table of warm food awaits, a feast she had the imperial kitchen prepare. Dai Jiang remains wary, his mind clouded with suspicion that this is a trap, that the emperor is using the kind princess to poison him. Sensing his hesitation, Jiu Jiu presents an imperial edict, which a eunuch reads aloud, officially decreeing that the hostage will be treated with the same standards as a member of the harem. The words hit Dai Jiang with the force of a physical blow. She fought for all of this for him. Jiu Jiu invites him to eat, taking a large bite herself to prove the food is safe. A small, almost imperceptible smile touches his lips as he watches her. For the first time, he lets his guard down and agrees to eat with her. In a startling act of kindness, he peels a shrimp and places it in her bowl. Later that night, his attendant voices his suspicion that this is all a conspiracy. But Dai Jiang silences him with a single look. He states with conviction that while the adults of Xi Chu may have bad intentions, the little princess does not. He commands his attendant that he can hate and suspect anyone but never her. She was the first person in this cruel world who ever helped him, and he stares into the night, wondering when he will get to see her again. Jiu Jiu awakens not to the gentle morning light, but to the intimidating sight of her three prince brothers looming over her bed. Though they're handsome, their intense stares are terrifying this early. The crown prince quickly apologizes, explaining he heard she was awake and couldn't wait to see her. As a penance, he offers to take her out of the palace, a place she's never left before. Her eyes light up with pure joy at the prospect of seeing the outside world, eagerly asking where they're going. He reveals their destination is Miss Yu's house, but Jiu Jiu senses there's more to this trip. The truth is, the prince is using her as a secret weapon. General Yu, Miss Yu's father, has already rejected the emperor's marriage proposal, and the prince hopes Jiu Jiu's cuteness will soften the stubborn general's heart. He strikes a deal with her. If she can touch Miss Yu's face, he promises she can ride a big horse, a proposition she eagerly accepts. It seems like a foolproof plan, a win-win situation for Jiu Jiu. Their confidence, however, shatters when they arrive at the Yu mansion only to be barred from even entering the door. The prince is utterly flabbergasted that General Yu would show him such disrespect. But Jiu Jiu, ever the clever strategist, remembers a crucial piece of information. The general loves a specific kind of taro that is impossible to buy in the capital. Realizing this is their key, the prince praises her intelligence. They journey to the remote and hard-to-reach West Market, finally acquiring the rare taro and presenting it as a gift to the guards. The plan works and they are ushered inside to wait for the master. The prince is a bundle of nerves, fidgeting anxiously as they wait, a fact that Jiu Jiu finds rather amusing. When General Yu finally appears, he is as imposing and scary as she imagined. But the moment he sees her, his stern expression melts into one of pure delight. He's even more thrilled by the thoughtful gift of taro which he's craved for years. Despite the warm welcome, when the topic of marriage arises, the general's face hardens. He bluntly tells the prince to give up the idea entirely. Jiu Jiu is aghast at the instant rejection. The general explains he already has a perfect son-in-law in mind, Liu Pei, the son of the Minister of Works, a man he describes as a handsome and trustworthy gentleman. The crown prince is left speechless, but Jiu Jiu knows the horrifying truth. Liu Pei is no gentleman. He's a violent brute who spends his days abusing servants and committing all sorts of evil. A new plan forms in her mind. She must expose Liu Pei for the monster he is. The prince, sensing her determination, realizes she is the key to his happiness. With a cunning glint in her eye, Jiu Jiu suggests they visit the night market near Flower Street, a place she knows is frequented by scoundrels. She then masterfully convinces the general to act as her bodyguard, playing on his protective instincts. At the vibrant market, the general dotes on her, buying her a bamboo dragonfly. Just as she planned, their fun is interrupted by a commotion. They find Liu Pei violently accosting a young woman, who accuses him of murdering her sister just days before. Liu Pei sneers, threatening to disfigure her if she doesn't submit. When his subordinate points out his future father-in-law is watching, Liu Pei scoffs, convinced the conservative old man would never be in such a place. But General Yu steps out of the shadows, his face contorted with rage as he lands a powerful punch on Liu Pei's jaw. The general icily informs the sniveling man that he has severely misjudged him and the wedding is off. Back at the mansion, a humbled General Yu apologizes for the embarrassing spectacle. Just then, the beautiful Miss Yu appears, serving them food. The prince and Miss Yu share a longing glance, their feelings for each other palpable. Observing them, the general's resolve begins to waver. Seizing the opportunity, Jiu Jiu boldly asks if her prince brother can now be with Sister Yu. After a tense silence, the general finally relents, announcing that he will give his daughter's hand to the crown prince. Overjoyed, the prince can hardly believe his ears. And Jiu Jiu triumphantly gets to touch Miss Yu's face, her mission a resounding success. What a happy day, she successfully played matchmaker and secured her future sister-in-law. Later, back in their chambers, the prince is filled with gratitude, but Jiu Jiu is more concerned about her promised horse ride. He laughs, promising she'll get her ride, and lifts her onto his back in a playful embrace. Their celebration is cut short when a servant announces the arrival of the second prince. The mood instantly plummets. The crown prince's face darkens as Jiu Jiu's inner voice reveals a chilling secret. The second prince is an imposter, scheming to usurp the throne. The prince is shattered by the betrayal, realizing the brother he trusted most was a lie. Jiu Jiu sees the pain in his eyes and knows this threat must be dealt with swiftly. Masking his turmoil, the crown prince dismisses his brother, telling his attendant to find any excuse to turn him away in the future. He never wants to see that face again. He then turns a gentle smile to Jiu Jiu, promising to make it up to her another day. As he watches her sleep, he vows to protect her sincerity at all costs. The next morning, Jiu Jiu wakes up to find the prince already gone. Eager for more adventure, she convinces her attendant to let her go for a walk in the city, promising to be careful. As she joyfully explores the streets, a sinister figure watches from a rooftop, having finally found the opportunity they were waiting for. Jiu Jiu wants snacks that aren't available in the palace, and her brother, the eldest prince, seizes the chance to get closer to her, promising to take her to a place with delicious food. He's thrilled for this opportunity to finally get along with her and show off his reliable side as he scoops her up, much to her surprise. Jiu Jiu is internally bewildered, wondering why he's carrying her and thinking he's being awfully petty, a stark contrast to the persona he usually presents. He apologizes for startling her, explaining he was just too excited, and offers to take her to a famous bun shop better than anything the imperial chefs can make. He insists on carrying her, believing it's the perfect way to bond, while Jiu Jiu silently fumes, realizing she should have behaved better at the banquet if this was the consequence. Arriving at the restaurant, he generously offers to treat her to whatever she wants, seeing another chance to win her over. He recommends the meat buns and specifically the wild mushroom stuffing, something she's never tried before. He's ecstatic that he can hear her inner thoughts, feeling that if he keeps this up, he'll finally get close to her. Hearing her silent thought that she's starving, he decides to go all out and order a massive feast to surprise her. A moment later, he returns with towering stacks of buns, leaving Jiu Jiu in utter shock as she asks if he intends to stuff her to death. Nearby patrons whisper about their huge order, but the prince proudly declares he'll eat every last one. After the meal, Jiu Jiu is completely stuffed and wants to take a walk, telling her brother to finish the leftovers and not waste them. The prince readily agrees, telling her not to wander far. As soon as his back is turned, Jiu Jiu slips away, calling him a fool in her mind. She spots a jewelry stall and decides to buy a hairpin as a gift for her mother. Her peaceful moment is shattered when a young man named Jiang Cheng rudely demands she hand over the gold and jade necklace she's wearing, claiming his sister wants it. Jiu Jiu clutches the necklace protectively, refusing and explaining it was a precious gift from her mother. Jiang Cheng scoffs at her, calling her a country bumpkin and boasting that he's the son of the Minister of Industry. Jiu Jiu calmly retorts that his connections are useless since his cousin was recently imprisoned, and that robbing her would land them both in jail. Enraged by her defiance, Jiang Cheng declares he's going to teach her a lesson. Her attendant panics, wondering where the prince's guards are as Jiang Cheng sneers that it's too late for fear. Suddenly, a sharp slap rings out, sending him stumbling back. The eldest prince appears, his face radiating cold fury as he asks who dares to try and harm her. Jiu Jiu feels a wave of relief, confident her military commander brother will protect her. The prince, filled with resolve, thinks that all his martial arts training will finally be put to good use. Jiang Cheng, holding his stinging cheek, demands to know who the newcomer is, mocking his appearance. With simmering rage, the prince reveals his identity as the eldest prince of the dynasty. Jiang Cheng bursts out laughing, finding it ridiculous that a prince would eat at a street stall, and sarcastically asks if Jiu Jiu is the emperor's favorite princess. Convinced they're bluffing, he orders his men to seize the necklace. The prince tells Jiu Jiu to step back so she doesn't get hurt by mistake, calmly warning the thugs that even all together, they are no match for him. In a blur of motion, he effortlessly dispatches the attackers, his years of military experience on full display. Jiu Jiu watches with sparkling eyes, thinking her big brother is incredibly handsome and powerful. The prince continues his assault, taking down one man with a left hook and another with a swift kick, all while Jiu Jiu cheers him on. Beaten and humiliated, Jiang Cheng threatens to call his high-ranking father Jiang Qingshan. The prince and Jiu Jiu are completely unimpressed, retorting that no one's father holds a higher rank than theirs. The attendant grows fearful, warning them to flee because the Jiang family is known for ruthlessly bullying others with their power. The prince's eyes harden as he promises Jiu Jiu he won't let them go. Just then, Jiang Cheng returns with his father, pointing at the siblings and declaring they were the ones who bullied him. Jiang Qingshan arrogantly orders the prince to turn around and kneel, threatening him with a grim fate. The prince slowly turns, asking the official to open his eyes and see clearly who he is. The color drains from Jiang Qingshan's face as he recognizes the royal heir and immediately drops to his knees, begging the prince for forgiveness. Jiang Cheng is floored. His father, livid at his son's idiocy, slaps him hard across the face, screaming that he's ruined them. The prince coldly orders the government office to launch a full investigation. He then gently asks Jiu Jiu if she's all right, and she thanks him for his protection, though she secretly worries that the corrupt officials will just take a bribe and let the criminals go. Sensing her unease, the prince decides they will personally go to the government office to supervise the case. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, an old man insists on seeing his family, brushing aside his son's concerns by stating he's already waited 3 years. At the government office, the corrupt chief is arguing with his deputy, brazenly stating he will protect the powerful Jiang family and that a petty official can't stop him. His plan is to let them off easy after a few days, not wanting to block his own path to wealth. At that very moment, the prince announces his arrival, striking terror into the official's heart. The prince sends him sprawling with a single kick. Declaring himself a military man with no patience for bureaucracy, he orders the chief to be jailed and appoints the honest deputy as his temporary replacement. The deputy vows to handle all cases impartially. Jiu Jiu's heart sinks as she remembers from the story that the disgraced chief will hire an assassin to kill the deputy that very night. She quickly warns the new official not to get out of his sedan chair for the next few days, no matter what happens. The prince, seeing the gravity of her warning, understands that something bad is about to happen and decides to act on her premonition. He issues an order for someone to follow the deputy's carriage. Later, while traveling, the deputy hears a baby crying outside. Despite his butler reminding him of the princess's warning, his compassionate nature wins out. He can't ignore a person in need. Deciding the baby is the priority, he steps out of the sedan, only to be immediately ambushed from behind. With the matter settled, 2 guards escort the disgraced man away as Jiu Jiu's big brother places a comforting hand on her shoulder. He calmly explains the entire scheme to her, revealing that the sound of a crying baby was just a trick by a ventriloquist. The man had been hired by Zhang Fuye, the deputy from the government office, to lure them out for some nefarious purpose. But Jiu Jiu needn't worry. Her father has already dismissed the villain and sentenced him accordingly. She asks about the Jiang and Liu families, and her brother assures her they too will receive the punishment they deserve. Liu Pei was sentenced to death, while Jiang Qingshan was exiled to the palace as a slave. Now that the villains have gotten their comeuppance, he tells her she can return to the palace with a clear mind, but she insists on staying at his house for 2 more days. He tries to tempt her by offering to let her ride a big horse, knowing she likes them. But Jiu Jiu's resolve is firm. Her mind is on a far more important matter, clearing her mother and brother's names. She must return to the palace to make preparations, knowing the 13th brother was framed for poisoning his own father. Seeing her determination, her brother agrees to escort her back himself. Jiu Jiu bursts into the room, joyfully announcing her return to her parents. Her father scoops her into a hug, happy she had fun, and she tells him how kind the prince and her elder brother were to her. Her father pulls her close, remarking how much he missed her. Jiu Jiu then changes the subject, cautiously mentioning that she heard her sister-in-law, Princess Wen, is returning to the capital today. The shift in her parents' expressions is immediate and palpable. This is clearly a sore subject. Jiu Jiu understands this is a delicate matter, but an opportunity she cannot miss. The memory of the past haunts her. At a banquet years ago, Prince Dun died after eating poisoned food, and her father was furious, ordering a full investigation. The blame was ultimately pinned on the unpopular 13th prince, all based on the testimony of the late emperor's adopted daughter, Princess Wen, who had accepted money from the real murderer. The prince was wrongfully imprisoned, and his biological mother was implicated as well. All the while, Princess Wen simply ran away from the consequences of her actions. Now that she's back, Jiu Jiu is determined to uncover the truth and clear her brother and mother's names, even if her father comes to hate her for it. She steels her resolve, knowing she must convince him to reinvestigate the case. To her surprise, her father admits there was indeed a hidden story and that they have been wronged for years. He confesses he came to speak to her mother about this very thing, intending to release the 13th prince and investigate what truly happened. Her mother kneels in gratitude, and her father asks her to recall any strange behavior from the prince before the incident. She can't think of anything, and the emperor worries it will be difficult to find the truth now that so much time has passed. Jiu Jiu realizes their only lead is Princess Wen herself. She knows that Princess Wen accepted money and a life-saving pill in exchange for her false testimony, but accidentally gave the real murderer a handle to blackmail her with over the years. Jiu Jiu deduces that if they can find Princess Wen's recent letters, the truth will be revealed. Her father, impressed, immediately orders someone to investigate the correspondence. He then looks at Jiu Jiu, bemused, wondering why she is so much smarter than him before pulling her into an adorable cheek-squishing hug. He declares he can never get enough of her cuteness, promising her mother he will give her and their son a proper explanation this time. Suddenly, Jiu Jiu remembers she brought her mother a gift, but she can't find her purse. Her mother tells her not to worry and goes to look for it herself. While searching, Jiu Jiu spots her missing purse in the hands of the vice chief of the Imperial Hospital. She approaches him and he returns the purse, apologizing for opening it to look for clues about the owner. He confesses he saw the prescription inside, a long-lost formula that can cure all poisons, and begs her to let him borrow it for research. Jiu Jiu refuses, explaining it's a treasure from her grandmother in her previous life and cannot be shared. The vice chief respectfully backs down and Jiu Jiu runs off to find her mother. Meanwhile, a servant reports this encounter to Princess Wen, informing her that the 18th princess has a detoxification prescription. Princess Wen, now married to the Mengdan tribe's queen, smirks with cruel confidence. She considers the new favorite of the emperor to be an easy target, and orders her servant to notify her when the princess is alone so she can steal the prescription. Back in the palace, her father presents Jiu Jiu with an adorable puppy. She is utterly delighted, having always wanted a dog in her past life but never having the money. Her father names the dog Da Huang, telling Jiu Jiu that he raised it himself and that it will now protect her. Jiu Jiu happily thanks him and runs off to play with her new friend. As she plays with Da Huang by a pond, Princess Wen spots her opportunity. The moment she was waiting for has finally arrived. She approaches Jiu Jiu, introducing herself as the queen of the Mengdan tribe and offering her a box of rare cowhide candy as a gift. Jiu Jiu's eyes narrow. She knows this is the woman who caused her family so much pain, and that her kindness is a lie. She flatly refuses the gift. Princess Wen's smile falters, wondering if the child somehow holds a grudge, but dismisses it as childish disinterest. She tries again, insisting the candy is a delicacy, but Jiu Jiu shoves the box away, sending it tumbling to the ground. Princess Wen's patience shatters. Her eyes flash with fury as she realizes the girl knows and holds a grudge. Deciding to take what she wants by force, she declares that the princess forced her hand and lunges toward her. But just as she reaches for Jiu Jiu, Da Huang leaps to the rescue, sinking his teeth into Princess Wen's arm. She screams in pain and terror as the dog chases her away, running blindly until she crashes right into the emperor and the queen mother. Seeing them, her mind races, knowing the truth will get her punished. With no one else around, she puts on a tearful display, pointing at Jiu Jiu. She wails that she kindly offered the princess snacks, but the arrogant child not only refused but ordered her dog to bite her. The emperor's face darkens with rage. He remembers how Princess Wen framed his son, and now she dares to frame his beloved daughter right before his eyes. His expression hardens. It's time to settle old and new accounts once and for all. The emperor calls the court to bear witness as Princess Wen kneels before him, venomously accusing little Jiu Jiu of ordering a dog to bite her and demanding the child be severely punished. The emperor holds his daughter close, his voice dangerously calm as he asks for evidence, stating that Jiu Jiu has never been one to hurt anyone without reason. Princess Wen tearfully insists that if not for the 18th princess, she wouldn't be in such a state. As the emperor turns to ask his daughter for her side of the story, a woman interjects, blaming Jiu Jiu for being a spoiled and reckless princess. The emperor's patience shatters as he roars at the woman to shut her mouth, his fury palpable. In the tense silence, Jiu Jiu speaks up, her voice small but firm, calling Princess Wen a liar. She reveals that the princess stole her purse first and her dog Da Huang was only trying to protect her. Wen scoffs at the idea, questioning why a queen like herself would ever need to steal from a child. Jiu Jiu hesitates, her mind racing for a way to explain the truth. Seeing the child's silence, Princess Wen smirks triumphantly. But Jiu Jiu, drawing on knowledge from her books, reveals the motive. Wen's biological mother is gravely ill, and the prescription she desperately needs was inside Jiu Jiu's purse. Jiu Jiu theorizes that the princess tried to snatch it to gain favor, but a flicker of despair crosses her face, knowing she has no proof. Just as Wen is about to mock her, the emperor intervenes, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. He confirms that Jiu Jiu's purse indeed held the cure, and with a piercing gaze, he tells Wen not to assume he is a fool, as he knows the true reason for her return. Princess Wen freezes in shock, her mind reeling as she wonders how he could possibly know her secrets. Jiu Jiu is internally cheering, amazed that her father figured it all out, wondering if he somehow heard her thoughts. The emperor clarifies that the vice dean had already informed him of everything, pointing an accusing finger at Wen and telling her that her scheme was far from perfect. Cornered and exposed, Princess Wen snaps, screaming that it's a frame-up and accusing the insidious child Jiu Jiu of plotting revenge against her. The emperor's face darkens, and he asks if she really wants him to investigate her past deeds. With a cold fury, he summons his aide, who presents a stack of letters, damning evidence of Wen's correspondence with King Fei, proving she was bribed to slander the 13th prince. The letters are thrown at her feet, and she scrambles to grab them, crying that they're fakes. A wave of pure terror washes over her. She was certain she had burned every last one. The emperor reveals his trap. They had intercepted the real letter and sent her a copy, lulling her into a false sense of security. His judgment is absolute. For her crimes, her title of princess is revoked, and she is banished back to Mengdan, never to return. As guards drag the hysterical woman away, Jiu Jiu watches, feeling that justice has been served. The emperor then clears the 13th prince of all charges, exonerating him completely. His mother, Li Fei, breaks down in tears of gratitude, and the emperor embraces her, apologizing for the years of suffering. Jiu Jiu is ecstatic, finally getting the chance to meet the brother she fought to save. They arrive at a grim prison, the oppressive atmosphere making Jiu Jiu tremble with fear. Inside a dark cell, the 13th prince sits alone, gaunt and lost, wondering about his mother's fate. The cell door creaks open, revealing his mother, her face streaked with tears. Before he can process this, guards move to seize him, and he is consumed by a horrifying thought: his father has ordered his death. Panic overtakes him, and in a desperate act of self-preservation, he lunges and grabs the nearest person, a small, innocent-looking girl, taking Jiu Jiu hostage. As he screams for everyone to back away, a soft voice echoes in his mind, asking why he would take his own sister hostage. He freezes, realizing the voice is Jiu Jiu's, and the weight of his action crashes down on him. He's hurting his own sister. He immediately releases her, horrified at what he's done. Concerned by his erratic behavior, Li Fei orders her son to be tied up and examined by physicians in secret. She comforts a confused Jiu Jiu, promising to protect her brother from the emperor's potential wrath. But the emperor, deciding to reunite with his family, intercepts the doctors and storms into the room, demanding to know who is sick. He finds his son wrapped and struggling, and a heavy tension fills the air. As his wife hesitates, afraid to explain, Jiu Jiu steps in, cleverly diffusing the situation. She tells her father that her mother was simply afraid to tell him about her brother's overexcitement, fearing he would be thrown back in jail. Her words strike the emperor with guilt. He turns to Li Fei, who kneels and begs him not to despise their son for his fragile state. The emperor gently raises her, promising he will never lock their son up again and vowing to make amends for their suffering. The misunderstanding finally clears, and the 13th prince realizes he was never in danger. The emperor decides to speak with his son alone, acknowledging his failings as a father. Outside, Li Fei weeps with joy, telling Jiu Jiu her family can finally be at peace. Hearing of her maternal relatives, Jiu Jiu insists the whole family visit them together. The emperor agrees, making it an imperial decree that he will personally escort them. Later, the 13th prince, Shisen, approaches Jiu Jiu, gifting her a small handmade figurine as an apology. As the family finally finds a moment of peace, the emperor pulls Li Fei aside with a strange request. He asks if Jiu Jiu can dress as a boy for the visit, worried her parents will dislike him if they find out she's a girl. The reveal leaves Li Fei and Shisen utterly baffled, and Jiu Jiu in a state of panic, as they all realize the emperor has no idea his precious child is and has always been a girl. The emperor's mind is a storm of conflict. Jiu Jiu has been pretending to be a girl for so long that his very identity is becoming confused. He declares with grim finality that this charade, born of his own selfishness, must end. From this day forward, Jiu Jiu will reclaim his male body and put away the girlish clothes for good. This news shatters Jiu Jiu's small world, who wonders how his daddy could be so cruel, while his brother 13 is equally aghast at the thought of his lovely sister becoming a stinky brother. From afar, Yao watches the melodrama, thinking her husband is acting like a child. She knows they just need to wait a little longer, just until their family regains its power and the emperor can truly protect them, before revealing Jiu Jiu's true identity to the world. The next day, Jiu Jiu is forced into boys' clothes, miserably complaining that all his beautiful jewelry has been replaced overnight. The emperor tries to soothe him, saying he looks cute no matter what, but Jiu Jiu pouts, stubbornly insisting he prefers his little skirts. A cold worry grips the emperor's heart. If this continues, Jiu Jiu will never survive the harsh realities of the court. He resolves to correct this concept, starting with a simple lesson. As a big boy, Jiu Jiu must learn to get on the carriage by himself. Jiu Jiu seethes with indignation, silently cursing his cheap dad for treating a 5-year-old so harshly. They soon arrive at a grand residence where Li Fei's parents greet the emperor with reverence. He dismisses the pleasantries, explaining he's merely accompanying Li Fei, but a shadow of concern crosses his face when he asks why she hasn't emerged from the carriage. Inside, Jiu Jiu realizes his mother is hesitating, crippled by the fear that her family will blame her for the misfortune that befell them. The emperor overhears, and the truth of her fear dawns on him. Seeing the genuine love and concern on her parents' faces, he strides to the carriage and reassures Yao that her parents are waiting eagerly, swearing that if he lies, he will never win her heart. His words break through her fear, and with his help, she steps out to a tearful, joyous reunion with her parents. Seeing his parents happy, Jiu Jiu decides to reluctantly forgive his father for the earlier cruelty. The happy atmosphere darkens when Yao's father reveals that her sister-in-law was poisoned during the Qiang Rebellion 6 years ago, and her condition is worsening daily. Jiu Jiu's mind flashes with a memory, recalling that the rebellion specifically targeted women of officials' families. His grandparents stare in shock, wondering how a child could know of events that transpired before his birth, concluding it must be a sign of his status as a lucky star. Seizing the moment, Jiu Jiu announces with unwavering confidence that he has a way to cure his aunt's poison. Despite her surprise, his mother asks if he's serious, and Jiu Jiu proudly claims to possess a prescription that can cure all poisons. The adults are skeptical, but Yao has a sudden epiphany. Jiu Jiu must have memories from a past life. This incredible realization is enough for the grandparents, who agree to place their trust in their grandchild. Without hesitation, the emperor agrees that saving a life is paramount and tells Yao to go, while he and 13 explore the mansion. They find Yao's brother, Lai Guangsheng, who has heard the news of a cure for his wife, Suer. Yao assures him the medicine will work, and he rushes to his wife's side. After drinking the concoction, Zuer's eyes widen in amazement. She feels a wave of comfort and relief, proclaiming the medicine is magical. Her husband weeps with joy, embracing her tightly. He showers Yao with thanks, but she deflects the praise, giving all credit to Jiu Jiu for finding the miraculous prescription. The family's fortunes have finally turned. With their name cleared, 13 released, and Zuer cured, the grandfather remarks that it's all thanks to their little lucky star. This prompts him to ask why the princess from Yao's letters is dressed as a tomboy. Yao finally confesses the truth. Jiu Jiu is a girl, but she concealed her gender to protect her from court intrigue, though she plans to reveal it soon. Her father nods in grim understanding, agreeing it was the right choice. Unseen, 13 has overheard every word, his heart soaring with the revelation that he has a real sister. But his joy is cut short when the emperor's hand clamps down on his shoulder, demanding to know what he meant when he said Jiu Jiu was a girl. Panic erupts in 13's chest as he scrambles for an excuse, claiming he was just fantasizing based on his mother's letters. He flees the interrogation, but the emperor is not fooled. 13's reaction was far too suspicious. He watches Yao and Jiu Jiu from a distance, a new resolve hardening in his eyes. He must uncover the truth she is hiding from him. Later, as Yao and the emperor share a quiet moment, their budding closeness fills Jiu Jiu with hope that he can soon live as a princess again. That hope is dashed when 13 accidentally crashes into him during a game, sending him tumbling to the ground. Jiu Jiu brushes it off, but his dirty clothes give the emperor a sudden, wicked idea. He seizes his chance, suggesting Jiu Jiu take a bath with him. The immediate and panicked refusal from both Yao and Jiu Jiu confirms his suspicions. There is a secret here, but he decides against force, choosing a more subtle path. That night, after a servant delivers Jiu Jiu to his room, the emperor stops the old man in the quiet courtyard. He fixes the servant with an intense, unyielding gaze and commands him to answer one question, his voice low and dangerous. Is Jiu Jiu a boy or a girl? An old servant assures the anxious emperor that she has seen everything clearly, confirming his deepest hopes. With a gentle smile, she reveals the truth: Jiu Jiu is a girl. A wave of pure, unadulterated joy washes over the emperor. He can't believe it, stammering that he finally has a daughter and must immediately send someone to spread the great news. His celebration is cut short by a sudden noise, and he whirls around to find his own son, Xiao Kai, cowering in the corner. The boy begs for his life, explaining he heard Jiu Jiu stayed overnight and climbed the wall to eavesdrop, not meaning any harm. The emperor's face darkens as he demands to know if Xiao Kai heard what was said. Xiao Kai, oblivious to the gravity of the situation, grins and congratulates his father on finally having a princess, calling it a great joy. But his innocent words spark a troubling thought in the emperor's mind. He had waited so long for daughter, so why did his wife Yao lie and hide Jiu Jiu's true gender from him? The joy turns to suspicion, and he declares he must go ask Yao himself. Xiao Kai quickly stops him, pointing out that a sudden appearance in the middle of the night would only scare the mother and child. Realizing his son is right, the emperor approaches the chambers quietly, noting with relief that the lights are still on. Inside, he overhears Yao gently explaining the harsh reality to Jiu Jiu. With her mother's family's power waning, it would be too dangerous if anyone knew she was a princess in this treacherous harem. Jiu Jiu, wise beyond her years, comforts her mother, saying she sent the nanny out before changing, ensuring her secret remains safe. The emperor listens from the shadows, a profound guilt washing over him as he finally understands. Yao hid the truth not to deceive him, but to protect their child from a court that would have her killed. Deciding to feign ignorance to earn back her trust, he steps inside, announcing that he just came to sleep with her and their son. At the sound of his voice, Jiu Jiu peeks out from behind a screen, happily calling for her daddy. The emperor, acting drunk, scoops her up for a kiss, then declares that since Jiu Jiu likes skirts, she can wear them again, a promise that makes her eyes sparkle with joy. The family settles into bed together, a perfect picture of happiness that Jiu Jiu desperately wishes could last forever. But their peace is shattered the next morning when a frantic servant bursts in. The emperor quickly silences him before Jiu Jiu wakes up and steps outside to hear the dire news. A riot has broken out, and a horde of refugees has stormed the city. While the emperor mulls over his options, Jiu Jiu listens from the doorway, her heart pounding with dread. This is the plague plot from the story. She has to stop her father. She rushes out, shouting for him not to let the refugees in. The emperor is taken aback but smiles, impressed that his child cares for national affairs. He asks her for a reason, and Jiu Jiu panics, knowing she can't reveal that they are all infected with a plague. Seeing her distress, the emperor simply trusts her intuition, declaring that his treasure Jiu Jiu has prevented chaos. He orders the refugees settled outside the city and tells his attendant to take his orders from the princess from now on, even reminding him that the guards should wear masks. The servant, though confused, bows and thanks the princess for her consideration. While the emperor's command is carried out, Prince Duan and his daughter see this as a chance to undermine Jiu Jiu and win the emperor's favor by helping the refugees they were meant to keep out. Back in his carriage, the emperor consoles a sad Jiu Jiu, promising more outings in the future. But their journey is interrupted by a guard announcing that Prince Duan requests an audience. Annoyed by the breach of etiquette, the emperor allows it, only for Prince Duan to present the very refugees he'd ordered kept outside. The prince smugly explains he brought them to pay homage, but the emperor explodes with rage, demanding to know if he was aware that these refugees were infected with the plague. The court is thrown into chaos. The emperor acts swiftly, ordering immediate isolation and disinfection measures. He tells Yao to take Jiu Jiu back to the palace for safety, but Jiu Jiu refuses, insisting she knows who can cure the plague. Intrigued, the emperor agrees to take her shopping first, and she asks to go to Kingliu Lane for candied haws, a clever excuse to find the little genius doctor who lives there. Prince Duan seizes the opportunity to accuse Jiu Jiu of frivolity during a crisis, but the emperor furiously shuts him down, blaming him for the entire disaster and banishing him from the city. Jiu Jiu is moved to tears by her father's absolute trust in her. Meanwhile, in Kingliu Lane, a skilled doctor named Kingzi is berated by her abusive husband for treating patients, as he raises a wooden club to beat her. A tiny but powerful voice commands him to stop. Jiu Jiu stands in the doorway, her eyes blazing, as she declares that only incompetent people beat women and he is forbidden from touching Kingzi ever again. The woman Kingzi begs the child to flee before she gets hurt, but the little girl Jiu Jiu stands her ground with surprising confidence, declaring that she's here to save her. Her abuser, a brutish man, scoffs at the child's audacity to interfere in his family affairs, threatening to teach her a lesson for meddling. But before he can lay a hand on her, an iron grip seizes his wrist. The emperor appears, his voice laced with ice as he tells the man to shut his filthy mouth. Blind with rage, the husband accuses the richly dressed stranger of having an affair with his wife, not even recognizing the dragon robe he wears, and roars that he'll kill him today. The emperor looks down on him with utter disdain, coldly stating that he has always been a clean person, a statement that makes Jiu Jiu mentally facepalm at her father's odd priorities. Deciding he has no time to personally teach this trash a lesson, the emperor summons his blindfolded guards, ordering them to take the man away and torture him without mercy. He gently covers Jiu Jiu's ears, telling his daughter that she's too young to listen to what comes next. With her tormentor gone, Kingzi drops to her knees, overcome with gratitude and vowing to repay their kindness even if it costs her everything. Jiu Jiu helps her up, explaining they need her help to treat illnesses and save lives, a proposal Kingzi readily accepts as it's her life's ambition. She asks how they knew of her skills, and the story flashes back to an old woman who first told them of a kind-hearted doctor named Kingzi who was abused by her husband. Jiu Jiu had realized this was the miracle doctor they were searching for, whose location was never mentioned in the original story, and urged her father to intervene. Back in the present, Jiu Jiu explains to a stunned Kingzi that she wasn't saved by them, but by her own persistent kindness, which inspired the old woman to risk everything to help her. The emperor beams with pride, thinking his daughter is both cute and sensible. Getting to the heart of the matter, he asks King Xi to help develop a cure for the plague ravaging the city. She agrees but makes one request, asking the emperor to grant her justice. She reveals that her husband, Union, beats both her and her son, and she begs for a way to escape his harassment forever. As she speaks, a young boy with silver hair emerges from hiding, greeting the emperor. The emperor is immediately impressed, noting the boy's ability to completely hide his presence would make him an amazing secret guard. At Jiu Jiu's urging, he issues a decree. If Kingxi cures the plague, she will become an imperial physician with a mansion, and her son will be trained in the palace, receiving the same salary. The boy is overwhelmed with gratitude, knowing the princess saved them, and he silently vows to train hard to protect her in the future. The emperor praises Jiu Jiu, admitting they never would have found the doctor if she hadn't asked for candied haws. A few months later, the plague is cured, and Jiu Jiu muses on how peaceful things have become, yet a nagging feeling tells her she's forgotten something important. Elsewhere, the young Prince Dijiang waits patiently, but his attendant grows frustrated, insisting the princess has deceived him and won't come. Dijiang sharply rebukes him, certain she was just delayed by something important. Their argument is interrupted by two other servants, Jiang Cheng and Jiang Zuer, who mock Dijiang's predicament. Jiang Cheng sneers that a proton doesn't deserve charcoal for the winter and reminds Dijiang that they are all slaves here. Jiang Zuer calls him a dreamer for waiting on a promise, before her brother concocts a crueler plan to steal his coals and let him freeze. Dijiang's attendant roars at them to return his highness's things, but Jiang Cheng shoves him down, declaring that while he can't hit the master, he can certainly hit the servant. But as his fist flies, a snowball smacks him squarely in the face. A cold voice rings out, warning them they'll regret it if they touch them again. It's Jiu Jiu, and Dijiang's eyes light up with disbelief and pure joy. She didn't forget him. The bullies immediately begin to grovel, claiming it was a misunderstanding and trying to shift the blame by accusing Dijiang of speaking ill of her. Dijiang freezes, terrified she might believe them as he is just a hostage. But Jiu Jiu's faith is unshaken. She declares that she knows Dijiang is not that kind of person. She turns her sharp gaze on the bullies, demanding to know what they were talking about, a sudden wave of guilt washing over her as she realizes she did forget about him while trying to change the plot. Turning back to Dijiang, she apologizes for her negligence and takes his hand, promising to visit so often he won't have a chance to miss her. The gesture floods Dijiang with emotion. It's the first time anyone has ever apologized to him or taken him seriously. Realizing a simple scolding won't solve the problem, Jiu Jiu offers to assign 2 servants from her own palace to him, ensuring no one will dare bully him again. He feels ashamed to rely on her, but Jiu Jiu is resolute, determined to protect the good person she knows he is before the world turns him into a villain. She playfully threatens to stop visiting if he refuses, leaving him no choice but to accept. With the matter settled, she mentions the plague and asks if the Imperial Hospital sent him any medicine. He confirms they have not, and Jiu Jiu's eyes narrow with cold fury. She knows from the book that the doctors intended to let him get sick to extort him. Although Kingxi's early arrival prevented that catastrophe, Jiu Jiu seeds at their corruption, declaring that their behavior is intolerable and begins plotting her revenge on Dijiang's behalf. Jiu Jiu confidently leads Dijian to the Imperial Hospital, a mischievous glint in her eyes. He asks why she's brought him here, worried she might be unwell, but she reassures him of her perfect health, telling him he'll understand soon enough. With a determined look, she steps inside and demands to see the imperial physician responsible for delivering medicine to the Zhiguan. A smarmy official named Wei steps forward, inwardly gloating about his luck in getting an opportunity to curry favor with the princess. But Jiu Jiu's face is a mask of disgust. She recognizes this man as a selfish villain from the novel, and a cold resolve settles in her heart to teach him a lesson today. She immediately confronts him, asking point-blank if he failed to deliver the epidemic prevention medicine to the hostage house. To her shock, the man doesn't even bother to lie, shamelessly admitting he never sent any medicine. He proudly declares that the hostages are proof of their country's weakness and not worth the effort, even insulting Dijian directly. Dijian tells Jiu Jiu not to take it to heart, as he's used to such contempt. A brilliant idea sparks in Jiu Jiu's mind. Since the fool confessed so easily, punishing him will be simple. With the authority of a true royal, she declares that Dr. Y has neglected his duties and disobeyed an imperial order. His punishment is immediate: expulsion from the palace and the confiscation of his salary as compensation for the hostage house. The doctor's arrogance vanishes, replaced by panic as he begs for mercy. Jiu Jiu coolly reminds him that he admitted his own guilt and threatens to escalate the matter to her father, a threat which silences his protests instantly. She then turns to the other stunned physicians, issuing a stern warning that anyone who mistreats the hostages in the future will suffer the same fate. The officials bow their heads, promising to obey her teachings. Her duty done, she turns to a moved Dijian, promising that she will always stand up for him if he's wronged again. He is overwhelmed by her kindness, realizing that in this cold palace, the young princess is the only one who truly cares for him. Back at her own palace, Jiu Jiu feels a swell of pride for her good deed. But her triumphant return is cut short when she finds the rooms empty and hears a faint, sorrowful crying. Her maid confirms the sound, and a chill runs down Jiu Jiu's spine as she momentarily fears the place is haunted. Her maid soothes her fears, suggesting it's probably just a palace maid who's been wronged. Filled with a sense of justice, Jiu Jiu decides she won't allow anyone in her residence to be mistreated and sets off to find the source of the crying. She follows the sound to a corner of the garden where she discovers a veiled woman weeping alone. The woman introduces herself as Lady N, and Jiu Jiu's mind races. She remembers this tragic plotline from the novel. Lady N, once a great beauty, was poisoned while pregnant with the third prince, leaving her scarred and her son frail. After falling from favor, she was denied medicine for him and eventually took her own life in despair, an act that twisted the third prince into a villain who helped destroy the kingdom. Seeing that Lady N is still alive, Jiu Jiu realizes she has a chance to change this tragic future. She gently asks if Lady N is crying over her brother's illness. Surprised, Lady N confirms this, explaining she was just turned away from the Imperial Hospital. As Lady N prepares to leave in defeat, Jiu Jiu grabs her sleeve, refusing to let the tragedy unfold. She declares that she has a way to help the third brother. Despite her desperation, Lady N gently tries to dissuade her, not wanting to involve the kind princess in her troubles. Touched by the woman's selflessness, Jiu Jiu's resolve hardens and she promises she will save him. With renewed purpose, she leads Lady N back to the Imperial Hospital, brushing off her concerns by saying the doctors have already learned their lesson. She storms into the building, striking fear into the hearts of the physicians who remember her wrath. Without wasting a breath, she announces that concubine Anne and the third prince are now under her protection. The terrified physician immediately agrees to treat the prince, solving in seconds a problem that had driven Lady Anne to despair. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Lady Anne vows to repay the princess's kindness, while Jiu Jiu is simply overjoyed at the thought of having a new brother. They arrive at the third prince's dilapidated residence, and Jiu Jiu's heart aches at the injustice of their living conditions. Inside, she sees her new brother for the first time, a pale young man with silver hair sleeping fitfully. Seeing his suffering firsthand, she understands his future bitterness and silently vows to change his miserable fate. She orders the physician to begin treatment at once. After a quick examination, the doctor assures them the prince will recover in less than 3 days. Lady Anne weeps with relief, hugging Jiu Jiu and thanking her profusely. Jiu Jiu comforts her, wisely stating that true beauty lies in the bones, not the skin. As evening falls, she bids them farewell, promising to visit again soon. 3 days later, Jiu Jiu returns to find the third prince awake but hostile. He eyes her with deep suspicion, demanding to know who she is and what she wants. In a strange twist, he can hear her innocent inner thoughts, which only deepens his confusion. He scoffs at her, bitterly remarking that it's easy to offer help to the fortunate but rare for someone to help the downtrodden. Annoyed by his distrust, Jiu Jiu decides to leave. But her departure is halted by the arrival of Lady N. Lady N warmly introduces Jiu Jiu as his lifesaver, the one who personally commanded the physicians to treat him. The third prince is thunderstruck, the truth washing over him in a wave of shock and shame. He immediately apologizes for his arrogance. Jiu Jiu, ever forgiving, tells him all is forgotten so long as he recovers and serves the kingdom well. He is stunned by her kindness and maturity, vowing to repay her. A monumental shift occurs within him. His secret plans for revenge against the kingdom evaporate, replaced by a new desire to protect the sister who values it so much. Meanwhile, news of the prince's recovery reaches Dijian, who realizes that their own plans have been disrupted by the little princess's intervention. With the final brushstroke, the third prince completes the prayer scriptures, a small token for Sister Jiu Jiu who saved his life. The comfort of his days with her had almost made him forget the bitterness of his past. A visitor enters with a proposition to join forces, an idea the prince had already considered. But his decision is made. He calmly declares he will not join any plot to betray Xi Chu, stating that from this day forward they are enemies. When the messenger dares to ask if the little princess is the reason for his refusal, a cold fury flashes in the prince's eyes. He roars at the man to shut up, warning him that even an unpopular prince has the power to crush his master. The terrified messenger retreats and the prince is left with his thoughts. He once hated this country, but now, for Jiu Jiu's happiness, he is willing to reconcile with it. Elsewhere, Dijiang learns of the third prince's fierce loyalty to the little princess, a revelation that makes him bitterly question his own standing in her heart. As if summoned by his thoughts, Jiu Jiu's cheerful voice echoes through the hall, announcing her arrival. A rare smile touches Daejeong's lips as she runs to him. She apologizes for her absence, explaining she was busy helping treat her third brother. Daejeong's smile fades as he feigns melancholy, reminding her that he is a mere hostage while she is a pampered princess, so it's only natural for her to neglect him. Jiu Jiu, sensing his jealousy, promises that if she can't visit, she'll have her nanny inform him, a thoughtful gesture that melts his feigned sadness. Her next words, however, bring a fresh wave of disappointment. She tells him the New Year's etiquette will keep her away until after the spring festival. Daejeong tries to hide his sorrow, assuring her that he understands and will wait. As she leaves, he is consumed by the desperate desire to keep her by his side forever. On the snowy New Year's Eve, the loneliness is a palpable weight as he plays a solitary tune on his flute. Suddenly, another flute answers his call, and he sharply demands the intruder reveal themselves. A girl named Feng Keiwei emerges from the shadows, recognizing him as the male lead from a story she knows. She believes this is her chance to steer the plot back in her favor, lamenting that her transmigration landed her as the daughter of the king of crime instead of the beloved heroine she was meant to be. She introduces herself, asking to play a song with him. Daejeong's mind fills with suspicion. Jiu Jiu couldn't even leave the palace tonight, so who is this stranger? He coldly tells her to leave, but she persists, her act only fueling his paranoia that she was sent by his treacherous brothers. In a flash, he pins her against a pillar, the end of his flute pressed against her throat like a knife as he demands to know who sent her. He dismisses her panic denials and orders her to get out before he gets rude. Watching her flee, he instructs his subordinate to investigate her, reflecting on how only Jiu Jiu treats him with any sincerity. Meanwhile, Jiu Jiu is being gently scolded by her father, the emperor, for trying to sneak out to see Daejeong. She tearfully explains she was lonely and wanted to keep him company. After she apologizes for neglecting her family, the emperor playfully puts her on the spot, telling her to choose between staying with him or her mother. Jiu Jiu, caught in the classic dilemma, wisely reasons that she must not be partial, a response that touches her father's heart. During the warm family dinner, the emperor decides the time is right for an important announcement. He declares that he feels guilty for Jiu Jiu's past hardships and has a special gift for her. As her mother encourages her to give thanks, the emperor reveals that since her status as a princess is now confirmed, he is bestowing upon her an official name and title, Princess Feng Yan Yu with the title Yongle. Jiu Jiu is ecstatic, thanking her father and feeling immense relief that he didn't give her a boy's name. The emperor explains the name's meaning. His beloved daughter has returned to him like a wild goose to its nest, completing his life. At the grand banquet, the 13th prince can't contain his pride over his sister's new status. Their moment is interrupted by the second prince, who approaches with a sinister smile and a cup of wine. The 13th prince's demeanor instantly cools. He flatly rejects the offer to drink, telling his brother his place is full. Internally, the second prince seethes, his plans crumbling since the 13th prince turned cold towards him. He tries again to offer a drink, but Jiu Jiu springs into action, grabbing her brother's arm and shouting at him not to drink it. She warns him that the second prince is a fake with evil intentions. The 13th prince politely declines the drink, leaving the second prince fuming at being thwarted by the androgynous old 18. He stalks away, muttering a threat that the 13th prince will come begging for his help later. Undeterred, the second prince moves to his next gambit, approaching the emperor with a request. He reports a snowstorm in Kyushu County and asks for several of his brothers to be assigned to help him with disaster relief. The 13th prince recognizes the ploy to win favor, but he and Jiu Jiu both sense a deeper, more dangerous scheme at play. Jiu Jiu's eyes narrow with determination. She knows she must stop him. The 13th prince confidently tells his father he wishes to go to Kyushu, but his little sister Feng Jiu Jiu immediately shouts her objection. Her heart hammers in her chest as she struggles to explain the impending doom she foresees, a devastating snowstorm that will claim countless lives after the new year. The 18th prince scoffs at her childish fears, but her second brother comes to her defense, challenging his dismissive tone. Before the argument can escalate, their father, the emperor, arrives, his presence silencing the room. Seizing the moment, Jiu Jiu raises her hand and declares that she recently dreamed of the snowstorm, framing it as a divine revelation. Hearing her inner thoughts confirm the truth, the emperor's expression hardens. He immediately issues a decree. The people of Kyushu County are to be evacuated within 3 days, and any official who dares to disobey will be executed on the spot. The 18th prince is left trembling with rage, his authority utterly undermined by a child's words. He internally vows to go there himself to prove the snow disaster is nonsense, planning to have Jiu Jiu punished upon his return. Jiu Jiu simply gives him a final warning, telling him not to blame her when he finds himself in danger. The matter settled, the emperor prepares for the show to begin. Later that night, while her parents are occupied, Jiu Jiu feels a pang of pity for her brother Jiang, who is all alone for the new year. Taking advantage of the distraction, she slips out of the palace, carrying a container of food. As she approaches his desolate residence, she spots a mysterious girl leaving the grounds. Inside, she finds Jiang playing a mournful tune on his flute under the snowy sky. He is stunned to see her, believing he must be dreaming. She rushes to his side, assuring him she's real and has brought him delicious food to share. Once inside, her curiosity gets the better of her, and she asks about the girl she saw at the door. Jiang's composure cracks, a flicker of panic in his eyes as he thinks she saw Kei. Deciding it's safer for Jiu Jiu not to know, he dismisses it as his servants causing trouble, something he claims he's used to. Jiu Jiu clenches her tiny fists, vowing to tell on anyone who bullies him. They move on to happier topics, enjoying the dumplings she brought. When Jiu Jiu wistfully mentions peach blossom pastry, Jiang's eyes light up. He immediately orders his attendant Chiang to bring her his remaining pastries. The attendant hesitates, but Jiang's fierce glare silences any protest. Chiang sighs, thinking how little they have to look forward to, but obeys his master's command. Jiu Jiu is delighted by the delicious treat, and Jiang watches her with a gentle smile, hoping he can become stronger to keep her this happy forever. Meanwhile, the girl who visited Feng Kei plots her next move, convinced Jiang is a future powerhouse she can manipulate for her own gain. Her attendant thinks she's gone mad. Back in his room, Jiang receives a report identifying the visitor as Feng Kei, the disgraced daughter of a prince. He broods over her mysterious visit, his thoughts turning back to Jiu Jiu and his inability to fulfill even her small wish for more pastry. As if summoned by his thoughts, Kei reappears, presenting him with the very ingredients he needs. She smugly waits, believing he'll make the pastry for her and that he's just a child she can easily control. When Jiang emerges with a tray of fresh peach blossom pastry, she reaches for it, only for him to pull it away sharply. He stares at her with cold contempt, informing her that these are not for her. His attendant then steps forward, presenting her with a pouch of money, explaining they only kept her waiting so they could pawn something to pay for the ingredients. Humiliation turns to fury and Kei slaps the money away, screaming that she wasn't there for money. Jiang easily dodges her clumsy attack, letting her stumble to the floor. He looms over her, advising her to recognize her own identity and stop harboring thoughts that shouldn't be hidden. Seething with rage, she snatches the money and storms out, vowing that they will all pay for this slight. Relieved, Jiang tells Chiang to deliver the pastries to the princess immediately, unable to bear the thought of her waiting any longer. He gazes out the window, lost in thought, wondering when he will finally be free. Jiu Jiu receives the gift and is overjoyed, telling her mother how kind brother Jiang is. She tries to share with her 13th brother, who is buried in his studies. He dismisses her without a glance, telling her to eat by herself. Her mother comforts her, explaining that he's not ignoring her on purpose but is just anxious about falling behind after his imprisonment. Jiu Jiu's heart fills with determination. She must find a way to help her brother. Her father then appears, asking if she wants to go on an outing. He plans an incognito visit to Kyoshu County to pacify the people unhappy with the evacuation order. A brilliant idea strikes Jiu Jiu, and she eagerly asks if her 13th brother can join them. The emperor hesitates, fearing it's not a good idea for his training. But Jiu Jiu cleverly suggests bringing the 10th and 11th princes as well, framing it as a rare opportunity for them all to see the world. Convinced, the emperor turns to his son and asks if he is willing to go. The 13th prince's face breaks into a radiant smile as he accepts, thanking his father and Jiu Jiu for the incredible learning opportunity. With her plan a success, Jiu Jiu can barely contain her excitement for the long trip ahead with her father and brothers. Jiu Jiu gazes out at the heavy snow, her heart filled with a childish desire to play, a wish her father, the emperor, immediately shuts down, deeming it too dangerous. He promises to join her later, and she reluctantly agrees, settling down to read with her 13th brother. This simple act of affection sparks a wave of jealousy among her other brothers, who grumble that Jiu Jiu has never shown them such concern. Outside this cozy scene, chaos reigns as officials try to enforce the emperor's evacuation order, warning of a coming snowstorm. The citizens are furious, refusing to believe the emperor could predict such a thing and accusing the officials of forging the decree to seize their property. The situation is at a stalemate until the emperor himself arrives with Jiu Jiu in tow. His official explains the difficulty: the people are rebellious and using force will only make things worse. As her father wonders how to save them from their own stubbornness, Jiu Jiu pipes up, confidently stating she has a simple way to calm everyone down. She steps forward, announcing that she is there to solve their problems. The lead protester scoffs at the cute little girl, declaring that their wealth is at home and the matter is not negotiable. But Jiu Jiu simply smiles and produces a thick stack of silver notes. She declares that every person evacuating will receive a 500 tael subsidy, a sum so large the man realizes his own house isn't even worth that much. His suspicion immediately turns to accusations of forgery, questioning where a child could get so much money. An official quickly intervenes, berating the man for speaking so rudely to the most favored 18th princess, who has no shortage of money. The man's face drains of color as he falls to his knees, begging for forgiveness. With a benevolent smile, Jiu Jiu forgives him, saying his ignorance is not a crime since he was fighting for everyone's rights. Her magnanimity wins over the crowd, who begin to praise her kindness, hailing her as a blessing for West Chu. Her father pulls her into a proud embrace, declaring she is his precious daughter. While her brothers watch in awe of her incredible feat, the crisis averted, the emperor curiously asks where she got all the money. A cold sweat breaks out on Jiu Jiu's brow as she remembers it was confiscated from corrupt imperial physicians, and she completely forgot to hand it over. Fortunately, her father dismisses the detail, praising her great contribution and promising a reward, much to her immense relief. His mood sours, however, when he asks about the second prince, only to be told he is still in Kyoshu County, willfully defying the evacuation order. Miles away, the arrogant second prince scoffs at the idea of a snowstorm, dismissing Jiu Jiu's premonition as childish nonsense. He declares his intent to stay, determined to prove his father trusted the wrong person, and vowing that he will survive to send Feng Jiu Jiu to hell. The emperor listens to the report, his expression hardening with rage as he realizes the extent of his son's betrayal. He coldly decides to abandon the boy, ordering his men to settle the people first. Jiu Jiu silently agrees. People like the second prince must suffer the consequences of their actions. The emperor resolves to send patrols later. If his son survives, he will be sent directly to prison. As the snow outside grows heavier, the second prince's attendant nervously suggests they evacuate. The prince roars in defiance, only to discover the door is already blocked by snow. A horrifying realization dawns on him. The little brat was right. He smashes his fist into a pillar in a fit of rage, but the attendant warns him the room can't handle the strain. The building groans under the immense pressure of the snow, and in a deafening crash, the entire house collapses, burying them alive. Later, an official reports the grim news of the second prince's death to the emperor. Jiu Jiu wakes from a nap, rubbing her eyes and asking what happened. Her father smiles, telling her the good news. The storm hit Kyoshu County and collapsed many houses, but thanks to her, all the residents were evacuated and are safe. Jiu Jiu beams with joy. As a further surprise, the people they saved have gathered outside to thank her personally, calling her a lucky star sent by the gods to protect them. Overwhelmed with happiness, Jiu Jiu vows to continue helping everyone she can. The emperor, pleased with the outcome, suggests they stay and inspect the area for a few days. An idea that delights Jiu Jiu. Another prince immediately seizes the opportunity to invite her to explore with him, much to the emperor's possessive irritation. By a beautiful river, the prince proudly shows her a shimmering songyu fish he caught. Jiu Jiu's blood runs cold as she recognizes the songyu river, recalling from the book she read that it will soon be turned into a poisonous river by the southern kingdom. She is gripped by panic. She knows the enemy plans to poison the water to hurt the people and manipulate fish prices, but she has no way to prove it. Sensing her distress, her brothers rush to her side. Thinking fast, Jiu Jiu claims she just had another dream, one where she saw someone poisoning the river and killing all the fish. Without a moment's hesitation, her brothers believe her and promise to ask the emperor to send patrols. The emperor, too, hears of her dream and immediately orders patrols to be increased to catch the would-be murderer. Jiu Jiu sighs in disbelief at their blind faith, but is glad the problem is being handled. They all proceed to a fishing gathering, reasoning it's the most likely place for the poisoning to occur, allowing them to investigate in disguise. Jiu Jiu provides a crucial detail from her dream. The poisoner was dressed like a beggar looking for an ice hole. While her brothers shower her with treats, her sharp eyes spot a beggar with an unusually expensive patterned bowl. It's a dead giveaway. Her brother signals the secret guards before approaching the man and offering to buy the bowl. The beggar clutches it defensively, refusing to sell at any price. With a subtle snap of his fingers, the prince's guards leap into action, pinning the man to the ground. Under pressure, the man confesses that the bowl's pattern is made of poisonous paint, and that a stranger paid him to toss it into the river, pleading his innocence. But Jiu Jiu isn't buying it. She points out that he knows far too much detail, like the bowl being coated with poison, for someone who was just a pawn, accusing him of being part of the conspiracy. The man's face twists in panic, and just as he's about to confess, he screams for them to look behind them. In a flash, a dark, hooded figure appears from the shadows, grabbing Jiu Jiu and holding her hostage. Jiu Jiu's eyes flutter open, the unfamiliar ceiling confirming her worst fear. She's been kidnapped. But terror is the last thing on her mind. Instead, a serene confidence settles in as she surveys the room, certain that her father and brothers are already on their way to rescue her. Her captors soon enter, a group of men led by an older gentleman who seems surprised by her composure. Jiu Jiu cuts straight to the point, demanding to know why she was brought here. The man introduces himself as Munan and says he has an important matter to discuss, promising to let her go if she agrees to help. The name clicks in her memory. Munan, a key figure from the Southern Chamber of Commerce and the very culprit who poisoned the Songyu River in the original story. Knowing his villainous nature, she knows his small favor will be anything but, and she instantly refuses. As he presses the issue, a cunning idea sparks in her mind. With a sharp, innocent gaze, she tells him she's heard he's impotent. Munan freezes, sputtering that he has a son, but Jiu Jiu twists the knife deeper, revealing his darkest secret. His son was born only after he forced his wife to borrow sperm from the housekeeper, all to hide his own shame. The man is utterly shattered, his secret laid bare by a mere child. Mortified, he quickly dismisses his men, warning them not to speak a word of what they heard. Left alone, Jiu Jiu knows her safety is temporary. She needs an escape plan. Spotting a fire starter and a pile of wood, she gets to work, creating a small but growing blaze. Once the smoke is thick enough, she lets out a piercing scream for help. Outside, chaos erupts as Munan's men spot the fire. He frantically orders them to put it out, terrified of the Emperor's wrath should any harm come to the princess. This is the opportunity Jiu Jiu was waiting for. She crawls through a loose section of the wall and emerges into the cool air, a triumphant smile on her face. She escaped all on her own and she feels absolutely awesome. But her celebration is cut short when she runs directly into a familiar figure, her big brother. He sighs in relief, explaining that news of her kidnapping sent him rushing from the capital to find her. Before they can properly reunite, two more imposing figures arrive, her father and the prince brother. Without a moment's hesitation, the prince brother draws his sword, pointing it directly at her big brother and ordering Jiu Jiu to stay away from him. Jiu Jiu is baffled, asking why they're treating her brother like an enemy. Her father's voice is grim as he accuses her big brother of being the one who kidnapped her. The big brother scoffs at the absurd logic, but Jiu Jiu quickly leaps to his defense, explaining that he is innocent and they met by chance after her daring escape. She proudly recounts her clever plan, basking in the glory of her self-rescue. Her father pulls her into a tight embrace, overwhelmed with relief. He gently explains that while she is powerful and clever, she is still young, and they were sick with worry over what could have happened. A pang of guilt hits Jiu Jiu as she realizes she hadn't considered their feelings. Her father, eager to move on, declares they will celebrate her return, but first, they must find the kidnappers. Jiu Jiu provides the key. They were Southern businessmen led by a man named Munan. Her father's eyes gleam with pride. Not only did she escape, but she brought back crucial intelligence. He vows that anyone who dares to touch Jiu Jiu will regret it for the rest of their lives, even banning their descendants from ever entering the country. Internally, Jiu Jiu thinks they should probably cover her ears before discussing such dark punishments. For her safety, her big brother takes her back to his mansion instead of the palace. On the way, he mentions that his aunt's infertility has been cured, and she's now pregnant, wondering aloud if Jiu Jiu's good fortune rubbed off on them. A thought strikes Jiu Jiu. She forgot to tell them to keep her prescription a secret. Her brother then awkwardly asks if she has a fertility prescription for him too. He explains it's for his longtime sweetheart, Xiao Jingwen, who was forced into a miserable marriage and is now suffering because she can't conceive. Jiu Jiu's heart sinks. She remembers Xiao Jingwen's tragic fate from the book, a life of abuse followed by death from a broken heart after her brother died in battle. A fierce determination fills her. She will change their story. She immediately suggests they go visit Sister Xiao. Her brother resists, not wanting to cause trouble for a married woman. But Jiu Jiu drops a bombshell, revealing the brutal truth. Xiao Jingwen is childless because she refuses to be with her husband, who beats and scolds her daily. Rage contorts her brother's face as he learns that the woman he loves is being abused. His hesitation vanishes, replaced by cold fury as he declares it's a prince's duty to check on his people. They arrive to a horrifying scene. Xiao Jingwen's husband, Lieutenant Lai, is whipping her, demanding she admit she hates the eldest prince. Just as the whip is about to strike again, a hand shoots out and stops it. It's Jiu Jiu's brother, disguised in a guard's uniform and a mask. Jiu Jiu coolly announces that she ordered him to stop the assault, privately mocking her brother's shamelessness. Lai is stunned to see the princess, who fabricates a story about losing her kite and stumbling upon his bullying. The man immediately begins bowing and begging for mercy. He tries to palm her off on his concubines, but Jiu Jiu isn't fooled, knowing he had promised Xiao Jingwen's family he would never take any. She dismisses them, insisting that she only wants to play with Sister Xiao, and orders Lai to find her non-existent kite immediately, forbidding him from following. Finally alone, she leads the shaken Xiao Jingwen away. Her brother guides them to a sparse, shabby room, and the intentional cruelty is obvious. Lai is deliberately making his wife live in squalor. Jiu Jiu expresses her utter disgust for the man, and as she does, the exhausted Xiao Jingwen suddenly faints, collapsing into her brother's arms. He holds her tenderly, his heart aching with regret for not knowing the depths of her suffering. Jiu Jiu comforts him, telling him it's not his fault and that there's still time to save her. They can arrange a divorce and make Lieutenant Lai pay for everything. With a new fire in his eyes, her brother agrees. Xiao Jingwen awakens in a haze, wondering where she is. Standing over her are the eldest prince and the little princess, Jiu Jiu, who explains that Jingwen had fainted from exhaustion and they brought her here. The prince gently asks if she's feeling better, but his concern only confuses her more. Jiu Jiu clarifies that her brother was worried about Jingwen's reputation since she's married, so he used Jiu Jiu as a pretext to come help. Jingwen offers a weak smile, thanking them for their concern, but the prince can see the deep misery she's trying to hide. Jiu Jiu, never one for subtlety, gets straight to the point, asking Jingwen why she doesn't just divorce her husband and leave him. The suggestion shocks Jingwen, who tearfully explains that she had considered a separation, but if she divorces him, it would ruin the marriage prospects of her unmarried sisters, forcing her to endure her fate. But Jiu Jiu is a master strategist, immediately promising that she can guarantee a successful divorce and solve the problem by having Jingwen marry her big brother afterward. Jingwen is still hesitant, explaining that her family is of low rank and her parents would never allow her to marry into the royal family for fear she'd be bullied. Unfazed, Jiu Jiu declares that as long as the two are in harmony, there's no difficulty she can't overcome. Without another moment's hesitation, she grabs the prince's sleeve, announcing they're going to the Xiao mansion to convince the elders right now. She spins a tale of a hero from a book who hesitated and regretted losing his lover for the rest of his life, a story that finally galvanizes the prince into action. Filled with newfound resolve, he turns to Jingwen, taking her hands and earnestly asking if she would be willing to wait for him to marry her. Tears of joy stream down her face as she whispers that she will wait for him. With that promise, the prince strides out, determined to win her family's approval. At the Xiao mansion, Jingwen's father coldly greets the prince, demanding to know why he's visiting his already married daughter. Jiu Jiu steps forward, revealing herself as the 18th princess and charmingly explaining that she understands their worries about their daughter marrying into a wealthy family. With a clever smile, she presents her ultimate solution. Instead of Jingwen marrying into the palace, the eldest prince could marry into the Xiao family as a live-in son-in-law. The prince is momentarily stunned by the audacious proposal but quickly collects himself. Filled with love for Jingwen, he bows respectfully and declares he is willing to become a live-in son-in-law as long as he can marry her. Her father, shocked by this display of sincerity, finally relents, agreeing to the marriage on one condition: they cannot use an imperial decree to force a divorce. The prince readily agrees, ecstatic that he's won their blessing. They rush back to Jingwen with Jiu Jiu eagerly announcing their success. But Jingwen's hope falters as she reveals her husband has told her repeatedly that he will never divorce her. Jiu Jiu just smiles, pulling Jingwen close to whisper her final, foolproof plan. That night, just as predicted, her husband Lieutenant Lai arrives with a tray of food, hoping to please the princess. He inwardly smirks, thinking Jingwen is just a soft person he can easily manipulate. He invites the princess to eat, but his glee is short-lived. The moment Jiu Jiu takes a bite, she drops the food, clutching her stomach and collapsing to the floor in agony. The prince rushes to her side, shouting for the imperial physician as Lai's world shatters around him. If the princess dies from his food, his life is over. In a desperate panic, he turns on his wife, pointing a finger and accusing her of being a jinx who brought this misfortune upon them. Just then, Jingwen calmly steps forward and announces that she can treat the princess. Lai scoffs at her supposed medical skills, but the prince, realizing this is all part of Jiu Jiu's elaborate act, allows her to proceed. Lai tries to stop her, threatening to torture her if she delays the princess's recovery, but it's too late. Jingwen simply holds Jiu Jiu's hand, and like magic, the princess leaps up, declaring her stomach doesn't hurt anymore. Lai is utterly dumbfounded, unable to comprehend how she cured her by accident. Seizing the opportunity, Jiu Jiu announces that for curing her, Jingwen will be rewarded with anything she desires. With all eyes on her, Jingwen kneels and makes her request, a divorce from her husband. Lieutenant Lai explodes in rage, grabbing her and snarling that he will teach her a lesson for her audacity. But he's gone too far. The eldest prince roars in fury, ordering his men to take down the man who dared to lay hands on Jingwen in front of him. Lai is thrown to the ground as Jingwen tearfully recounts the abuse she's suffered every day since their marriage. Defeated but still arrogant, Lai spits that he'll grant the divorce, sneering that no one would want a broken-hearted woman like her, not even the eldest prince. That's when the prince grabs him by the collar, his face inches away, and coldly asks him to repeat himself. The blood drains from Lai's face as he finally recognizes his rival. He tries to beg for mercy, but the prince condemns him for his crimes, declaring he will be dismissed and imprisoned. In a last pathetic burst of defiance, Lai taunts the prince, claiming the Xiao elders would never agree to their marriage and calling him a future loser. But Jiu Jiu delivers the final blow, calmly informing him that the grandparents have already agreed to the marriage. The last of Lai's hope evaporates and he collapses completely. Jingwen weeps with relief, finally free from her demon, and embraces the princess in gratitude. As Jiu Jiu and the prince prepare to leave, they are met by a eunuch Fuan, who announces that His Majesty wishes to see the princess. A spark of alarm and excitement flashes in Jiu Jiu's eyes as she wonders what could have happened to her father. Worried about her father, Jiu Jiu pleads with her brother to let her see him in the sedan chair, but he firmly tells her to stay back. He reassures her that their father is fine and she has no need to worry, sternly reminding her that she is not to disobey a direct order. But Jiu Jiu is not so easily dissuaded, and as she tries to sneak into the carriage, she's spotted by an attendant. Ignoring everyone, she cries out for her father and rushes inside the sedan, only to find him looking pale and unwell. He immediately orders her to get out before he infects her, but Jiu Jiu defiantly clings to his arm. With tears in her eyes, she declares that the plague is over and she isn't afraid, insisting she will accompany him no matter what. Moved by her fierce loyalty, her father softens and asks her to sit, prompting a worried Jiu Jiu to demand why he suddenly fell ill and if he's seen a physician. He tries to brush off her concerns, but his hesitation only makes her press harder, asking if his condition is serious. A nearby eunuch Fun quickly covers for him, explaining he merely caught a cold while searching for Jiu Jiu after she got lost. The emperor sighs, lamenting that this unexpected illness has completely ruined his mighty and indestructible image, and he playfully pins all the blame on her. His words strike a chord of guilt in Jiu Jiu, who tears up, blaming herself entirely for his condition. Seeing her genuine remorse, her father's heart melts, and he calls her a well-behaved child before asking her to take care of him until he recovers. Jiu Jiu readily agrees, happily taking on the role of his personal nurse. She dotes on him tirelessly, bringing him fresh towels and specially made porridge, making her father beam with pride, thinking his sweet daughter is far more caring than his other children. However, when several days pass with no improvement, Jiu Jiu's suspicion grows. She corners Fun and demands to know why her father hasn't healed, forcing the eunuch to admit the physician said he would recover as long as he took his medicine on time. The truth clicks into place, and Jiu Jiu storms over to her father, furiously demanding why he hasn't been taking his medicine. He sheepishly confesses that he just wanted her to take care of him for a couple more days, and that he doesn't like the bitter taste. Jiu Jiu can only stare in disbelief, her grand image of her father crumbling into that of a child who's afraid of a little bitterness. Once he finally recovers, she is overjoyed to return to Xi Chu, where she runs into her cousin, Nan Yuanxiang. Her cousin is thrilled to see her, explaining she'd been looking for her everywhere, and was worried something had happened. Then her expression turns serious as she reveals she needs Jiu Jiu's help. She presents a small box, reminding Jiu Jiu of the delicious peach blossom cake made by their brother Dijiang. Nan Yuanxiang explains her plan to sell the cakes to make money, but confesses that Dijiang has repeatedly refused to teach her the recipe, even when she offered him a share of the profits. She begs Jiu Jiu to persuade him, claiming the money would improve his life too. Though Jiu Jiu is hesitant to force him, she believes her cousin's intentions are good and agrees to ask, promising not to push if he says no. Meanwhile, a servant informs a cold and distant Dijiang that Miss Nan is there to see him again. He orders her to be sent away, but his entire demeanor changes the moment he hears Jiu Jiu's cheerful voice announcing her arrival. He greets her warmly, expressing his relief that she has returned safely. Jiu Jiu gets straight to the point, asking if he could teach them how to make the peach blossom pastry. Dijiang's smile vanishes instantly. With a pained look, he asks if she only came to see him to ask this favor for Nan Yuanxiang. Jiu Jiu frantically denies it, explaining she only agreed because her cousin offered to share the profits, hoping to make his life easier. Dijiang grabs her hand, his eyes filled with a desperate intensity, and asks a single loaded question. Among all the people she cares for, where does he stand in her heart? Before she can even process the question, he panics, thinking he was too impulsive. He covers her mouth, telling her to forget he ever asked, and abruptly agrees to teach her cousin, promising to do anything she wants. Just then, a new girl named Feng Keiwei enters, sneering that the peach blossom pastry has a special meaning for Dijiang and accusing the princess of using her status to bully him. Jiu Jiu's eyes widen with hurt as she turns to Dijiang, asking if it's true and if he doesn't like her anymore. He vehemently denies it, dismissing Feng Keiwei as a mere servant who speaks nonsense. Seeing Jiu Jiu is still shaken, Dijiang's anger flares and he banishes the meddling servant to clean the yard. After she leaves, he gently agrees to head to the kitchen. Jiu Jiu feels a wave of relief, realizing Dijiang hasn't been bewitched by Feng Keiwei like in the original story. She then asks if she can learn too, and he happily agrees they can cook together. Her cousin thanks her profusely, promising to give the profits to Dijiang as promised. As they walk away, Dijiang watches Jiu Jiu, thinking she is the only one who truly cares for him and vows to deal with anyone who tries to harm her. Unseen by them, Feng Keiwei watches from the doorway, her face twisted in rage. She seethes over how this little princess has taken her place by Dijiang's side and plots to find a new strategy to get rid of her for good. With focused determination, Jiu Jiu attempts to make delicate flower-shaped pastries, but her first try results in a misshapen lump of dough. Her heart sinks as she wonders why her creation is so different from everyone else's, a wave of disappointment washing over her. Her brothers quickly reassure her, with one even offering to switch his perfect pastry with her failed one, telling her not to be sad. Filled with renewed resolve, Jiu Jiu declares that she will try again, certain she can make delicious and beautiful pastries this time. Her efforts pay off, and she soon presents a perfect plate of peach blossom cakes, realizing she accidentally made far too many. She decides to share them with Madame N and her third brother, knowing it's the right thing to do. Bursting into their residence, she happily announces her arrival, offering them the pastries she learned to make. Madame N is deeply moved, explaining that everyone in the harem avoids them, and Jiu Jiu is the only one who treats them with such kindness. Jiu Jiu innocently asks why people avoid them, as they seem like very nice people. With a heavy heart, Madame N explains that she was poisoned while pregnant, which disfigured her face and caused her son to be born with scars, leading the emperor to despise them. The third prince reassures his mother, telling her it's all right and that Jiu Jiu is different from the others. Steeling herself, Madame N removes her veil, revealing the ugly scar on her cheek as she recounts how the emperor lost interest after even famous doctors couldn't cure her. Jiu Jiu is filled with righteous anger, declaring it's all her father's fault for making them suffer. She then asks a startling question: if she said she knew a way to detoxify Madame N, would they believe her? The third prince, having witnessed Jiu Jiu's uncanny wisdom before, immediately urges his mother to give it a try, believing that what she says must be true. The next day, Jiu Jiu returns to check on their progress, only to be met by a frantic third prince. He cries out that after his mother took the medicine, the spots on her face got even worse. Jiu Jiu smiles knowingly, explaining that it's a good sign. The medicine is working by expelling the toxins to the surface of her skin. She calmly explains that once Madame N is washed clean, she'll be even more beautiful than before. Urging her to wash her face, Jiu Jiu watches as Madame N hesitantly dips her hands into the water, wondering if it's truly possible. Her son holds up a mirror, and she stares at her own flawless reflection in utter disbelief, barely recognizing the beautiful woman staring back at her. Overjoyed, Jiu Jiu presents her with a lotus flower as a gift for her recovery. Now filled with a sense of justice, Jiu Jiu announces she's going to tell her father the good news and make him regret his years of neglect. She bursts into her father's study just as he's drowning in paperwork, excitedly telling him she has a surprise. Just then, the third prince enters, and the emperor stares in shock, demanding to know who this stranger is. The prince introduces himself as Feng Tianyan, and Jiu Jiu proudly reveals her surprise: she healed both him and Madame N. The emperor is ecstatic, but their celebration is cut short by the arrival of the Imperial Observatory official, who confirms a prophecy about a blessed woman. The emperor assumes he means Jiu Jiu, but the official clarifies he speaks of someone else entirely: Feng Keiwei, the daughter of the disgraced Prince Duan. The emperor is stunned into silence, refusing to believe it, but the official insists his deduction is absolute, requesting that Feng Keiwei be named the Holy Maiden. Jiu Jiu internally fumes, knowing from the book that this man is a traitor who deceives her father. The emperor angrily demands to know what proof the official has. The official points to the third prince's recovery as proof of Feng Keiwei's influence, but the prince explodes in rage, shouting that it was Jiu Jiu who cured him and ordering the man to stop spouting nonsense. Seeing the truth, the emperor orders the guards to drag the slandering official away, sentence him to 100 slaps and 50 lashes, and expel him from the capital forever. As the man is dragged away screaming for mercy, the emperor and third prince comfort Jiu Jiu, reassuring her that she is the true lucky star of their kingdom. The family's harmony is palpable, a sight that warms the emperor's heart. Just then, the eldest prince rushes in, excitedly announcing that his wedding date with Miss Sayo has been set. Jiu Jiu immediately asks if she can visit his home for the wedding, and he happily agrees, sweeping her up before his father can protest. At the eldest prince's magnificent mansion, a guard reports that General Yang Bo is causing a scene outside, begging for death. Jiu Jiu's eyes widen in recognition. She knows Yang Bo is a fierce general from the southern kingdom, and her curiosity piqued, she tells her big brother that she wants to meet him. Jiu Jiu and her brother arrive to a shocking scene. Lord Yang Bo is unconscious on the floor. A subordinate explains that the general had tried to take his own life, leaving the brother stunned and concerned. Yang Bo awakens, his first thought a bewildered question of why he isn't dead. With unshakable confidence, Jiu Jiu informs him that not only did he survive this time, but he won't die even if he tries again. A secret smile playing on her lips as she recalls his fate of living to be 99 years old. When he scoffs at her supposed fortune-telling abilities, she proposes a simple bet. If he fails to commit suicide on his next attempt, he will have to have a serious talk with her about why he wanted to die in the first place. Goaded by her question of whether a valiant general like him is afraid of death, he leaps to his feet in defiance. He grabs a sword, refusing to believe he can't simply die, only to discover the blade is completely dull. He whirls on Jiu Jiu, demanding to know what's wrong with his knife, his frustration boiling over. She calmly explains that her joyous day would be ruined by sharp weapons welcoming bad luck, before pointedly asking him to finally explain his suicide attempt. It's then that her brother steps in, revealing he already knows everything about Yang Bo's troubles, how he was overlooked in Western Chu and was nearly lured to the Southern Kingdom. He offers the despairing general a second chance, the position of deputy general in Western Chu. Overwhelmed by this unexpected kindness, Yang Bo drops to his knees, pledging his unwavering loyalty and promising not to fail his mission. Jiu Jiu is pleased the matter is resolved, but her moment of triumph is interrupted by the sudden appearance of her third brother, who has come to deliver a marriage certificate from their father. While her older brother is overjoyed, third brother turns his attention to Jiu Jiu, wanting to take her out as a thank you for a past favor. Her older brother tries to refuse, but Jiu Jiu is completely captivated by her third brother's handsome face and eagerly agrees to go with him, leaving her other brother fuming in the background. Out in the bustling city, Jiu Jiu happily leads the way. Deciding on a steamed bun shop, their outing is soured when a young lady named Sun Zioyan arrogantly cuts in line. Jiu Jiu immediately recognizes the name. This is third brother's snobbish ex-fiancé, the one who broke their engagement over his scarred face. Third brother is touched when Jiu Jiu, sensing his potential discomfort, declares she no longer wants buns and suggests they go elsewhere. But it's too late. Sun Zioyan has already spotted them, or rather, she's spotted the incredibly handsome third brother. She approaches him, shamelessly declaring it's love at first sight and asking if he's married. Jiu Jiu, disgusted by the blatant hypocrisy, steps in to ask if she's sure it isn't their family fortune she's after. Annoyed, Sun Zioyan introduces herself as a minister's daughter, insisting that material possessions are secondary to her. Seeing an opportunity, Jiu Jiu plays along, feigning admiration for such an extraordinary person. This is the cue third brother needs. He understands her plan and chimes in, musing that if his father takes her as his 10th concubine, Jiu Jiu can finally rest easy. Sun Zioyan is horrified by the suggestion. Jiu Jiu then weaves a pitiful tale about their family being so poor they have 9 concubines and have to rent clothes just for a day. Realizing the trap, Sun Zioyan tries to back out, claiming she must discuss this with her parents. But Jiu Jiu immediately calls her out on her earlier claim that family background didn't matter. Exposed as a hypocrite, Sun Zioyan explodes with rage, screeching that he's a toad trying to eat swan meat and is not good enough for her. The crowd, witnessing her cruelty, turns on her, calling her shameless. She flees in utter humiliation, vowing revenge. Third brother warmly thanks Jiu Jiu for defending him, promising to treat her well from now on. Their fun is cut short when he reminds her that Madame Lai wants her back for her studies. Jiu Jiu detests studying and throws a tantrum, cleverly suggesting that her brother Dai Jiang teach her, secretly believing the emperor would never allow a hostage to leave his residence. To her absolute horror, her plan backfires completely when Dai Jiang himself walks into the room, ready to begin her lesson. Trapped, Jiu Jiu pouts that she has no choice but to study now, bluntly telling Dai Jiang she doesn't want to. She quickly clarifies that she doesn't dislike him, just the idea of studying. Dai Jiang gently suggests she can simply watch him learn today, and he begins to practice his calligraphy, beautifully writing her name. When he asks if she can read, she proudly announces she can write too, and proceeds to scrawl his name on a piece of paper. Impressed, he asks to keep her calligraphy, but she suddenly remembers her handwriting is awful and retracts the offer, promising to draw him a beautiful one instead. Seeing his chance, Dai Jiang cleverly assigns her homework to practice her calligraphy. The trick works, and Jiu Jiu becomes fiercely motivated to practice so she can give him a perfect gift. Dai Jiang leaves, silently congratulating himself on his success, while Jiu Jiu throws herself into her work. After practicing for hours, she's finally satisfied. Just then, her other brother returns from the academy, looking dejected. She rushes over to show him her work, but stops short when she sees his face is covered in painful stings. He explains that someone put honey on his seat, and he was attacked by bees on the road. A cold fury begins to build in Jiu Jiu as she realizes he's being bullied because he was recently released from prison. Her brother admits he has no proof of who did it. This was not in the original story. Jiu Jiu understands with dawning horror that her actions led to her brother being tormented. Her brother tries to reassure her that he's fine, but she clenches her fists, her eyes blazing with protective rage. She declares that she will go to the academy tomorrow to find the person who bullied her brother and make them pay severely for what they've done. Inside the palace academy, the 14th prince smirks, confiding in his accomplice about their latest scheme against the 13th prince. He dismisses any fear of being discovered, certain that even if caught, his brother wouldn't dare speak up. With their sticky trap laid out on the table, they settle in to watch the chaos unfold. But their smug satisfaction is shattered when a powerful voice echoes through the room, inquiring if someone is bullying her brother. A tiny but imposing figure appears in the doorway. It's the 18th sister, Jiu Jiu. The bullies pale instantly, recognizing the emperor's favored daughter, a girl known for her sharp intellect. Jiu Jiu marches in, introducing herself as the 14th elder brother's sister and demanding to know who would be foolish enough to target her family. The 14th prince quickly denies everything, warning her not to tarnish the imperial family's reputation without proof. Unfazed, Jiu Jiu declares she has a way to expose the true culprit and has her brother bring in a mysterious black box. The bully scoffs, doubting a broken box could ever lead to the murderer. But Jiu Jiu explains its magical properties, claiming it's a sacred object from the merfolk that can detect lies. She challenges everyone to put their hand inside to prove they never harmed the 13th prince, warning that a liar's finger will turn black. She stares down the 14th prince, daring him to go first. He smirks, having already coated his own fingers in black ink as a contingency, and slyly places his hand inside while keeping it hidden. One by one, everyone puts their hand in and shows them to be clean, and the bully's followers begin to accuse Jiu Jiu's innocent servants. As they demand punishment, Jiu Jiu calmly reassures her people before pointing a finger directly at the 14th prince. He looks down in horror to see his own hand is now covered in dark ink. He sputters in disbelief, realizing the box was empty all along. Jiu Jiu explains her brilliant trap with a cunning smile. She knew only the true culprit would try to cheat by blackening their hands beforehand. Cornered and exposed, the prince stammers that it's all a misunderstanding, but Jiu Jiu silences him, declaring that even a prince must face the consequences for his actions. She commands the guards to take them away, ensuring no one can interfere with their punishment. As her brother marvels at her genius, a strange old man suddenly grabs her, declaring her a genius and begging to become her disciple. Jiu Jiu is taken aback. The man introduces himself as Kai Jiangshu, the most esteemed Confucian scholar in the land, who was personally appointed by the emperor to be her teacher. He is so moved by her intelligence that he wishes to make her his final disciple, an honor countless others had been denied. Her brother looks on with immense pride, but to the scholar's utter shock, Jiu Jiu bluntly refuses. She explains that she already asked her father for a teacher, so she can no longer accept him. Privately thinking that becoming his student would leave her no time for her family, she quickly makes an excuse and flees, leaving the scholar devastated. From the shadows, another girl sees her chance, plotting to become the scholar's disciple to elevate her own status on her path to becoming empress. She plans to use her knowledge from a past life to plagiarize famous poems and win him. As Jiu Jiu celebrates her victory, the persistent scholar appears again, pleading with her to reconsider. Just then, the other girl interrupts, presenting the scholar with a scroll of poems she claims to have written. The scholar, annoyed, takes it with the intent of a brief dismissal, but his eyes widen in shock as he reads. He proclaims the poem a rare gem. The girl smugly offers Jiu Jiu a look, certain her talent is unassailable. But when Jiu Jiu reads the scroll, she freezes, its live eyes bring in the wine. Horrified that someone would steal a master's work, she confronts the girl, asking if she truly wrote it. The girl scoffs, internally confident that no one in this world could expose her lie. Jiu Jiu then asks her to explain the poem's meaning. The plagiarist is struck dumb, she only memorized the words. The scholar's gaze hardens as Jiu Jiu flawlessly explains the poem's themes of sorrow, aspiration, and freedom. The girl tries to claim she was testing the princess, but the scholar cuts her off, questioning how someone so young could possibly understand such deep emotions. He dismisses her as a fraud and tells her she is unqualified to be a disciple. His admiration for Jiu Jiu renewed, he once again begs to teach her, but she flees from his overwhelming persistence. Meanwhile, her actual teacher, Dai Jiang, learns of the incident. Believing it's time to step aside, he decides to resign his post, preferring to let go voluntarily rather than cling to a fleeting connection. Just as he makes his decision, Jiu Jiu bursts in. Noticing his somber expression, she is stunned when he formally requests to resign as her teacher. Heartbroken, she asks why, but he refuses to explain. When she asks if he hates her, he panics, trying to reassure her. Before he can finish, she lunges forward, catching him in a tight embrace. Flustered and blushing, he tells her to let go. But Jiu Jiu clings on, declaring she won't release him until he explains everything. Dai Jiang gently tells Jiu Jiu to get up, warning that if others see them like this, it will damage his reputation. But Jiu Jiu's heart aches with a different concern, and she asks him why he suddenly stopped being her teacher. He explains with a somber expression that he heard the great Confucian scholar Kai Zhangshu wishes to take her as his disciple, and compared to him, his own knowledge is utterly inadequate. He claims he resigned only so he wouldn't delay her future, seeing it as merely returning her to the right path. Jiu Jiu refuses to accept this, grabbing his hand and declaring that it isn't true because she was the one who chose him. A bright smile spreads across her face as she explains that Jiu Jiu means I chose you, leaving no room for misunderstanding. Stunned for a moment, Dai Jiang's expression softens into a warm smile. He understands now that she chose him and that's all that matters. He asks her to listen, admitting that he misunderstood and wants a chance to take back his resignation. He vows to stay by her side not just today but always in the future. Overjoyed, Jiu Jiu beams, but her delight turns to comical dismay when he immediately suggests they get back to class, making her cry out that this wasn't what she wanted. The following days are a blur of difficult studies, but her attendant lifts her spirits by announcing that her 5th birthday is approaching, and His Majesty plans to throw a grand banquet in her honor. The thought of a party, her family, and wonderful gifts fills Jiu Jiu with excitement. As she's being dressed for the occasion, she's surprised by how complicated the preparations are, but resolves to be on her best behavior to not worry her mother. Her mother gazes at her, remarking that Jiu Jiu has grown up, but the most important thing is for her to be happy today. With a cheerful thanks, Jiu Jiu runs off, leaving her mother to muse that she still has a long way to go. At the party, Jiu Jiu is awestruck by a room filled with gifts, but her father scoops her up, explaining these are just from officials who couldn't attend and more will come. As a new eunuch apprentice named Fu Lai presents a gift, a cold dread washes over Jiu Jiu. She recognizes him instantly from her past memories as a treacherous eunuch who will bring chaos to the court in the future. Her father, oblivious, internally praises Fu Lai's honesty, grateful to Jiu Jiu for her keen eye, and decides to reward them. Jiu Jiu is horrified, mentally screaming at her father for being a tyrant who rewards a villain, while Fu Lai secretly smirks, thinking he's fooled everyone and anticipating the chaos to come. In a shocking turn, her father's demeanor flips. Seeing Jiu Jiu's furrowed brow, he explodes with rage and orders Fu Lai's immediate banishment and permanent exile. As the terrified eunuch is dragged away pleading his loyalty, the emperor internally fumes that upsetting Jiu Jiu is the gravest of crimes. Jiu Jiu breathes a silent sigh of relief at her quick thinking just as the arrival of the crown prince is announced. He presents her with a beautiful necklace made from a wolf king's tooth, a token said to ward off wild animals. Jiu Jiu is thrilled, declaring herself the wolf king now, while her father watches with a possessive annoyance, vowing that these boys won't steal his daughter away. Next, her imperial brother arrives, presenting her with what he calls a big cat. She correctly identifies it as a tiger cub but declares she loves it anyway, much to his delight. After receiving a flood of other beautiful gifts, Jiu Jiu steps outside for a breath of fresh air, wondering where Dai Jiang could be. As if summoned by her thoughts, he appears behind her, asking if she was thinking of him. She happily confirms it, calling him a little fairy who grants wishes. When she asks for her gift, he grows hesitant, worrying that his simple offering can't compare to her other treasures. But she reassures him that sincerity is the most precious gift of all and that she trusts him completely. With a gentle smile, he reveals a small handmade clay doll crafted in her likeness. Jiu Jiu is overcome with joy, calling it adorable and promising to cherish it forever. She playfully teases him, asking if the figure is as cute as she is. He gazes at her warmly, replying that the doll is far less adorable than the real princess. She realizes with a smile that he is finally letting go of his burdens, a sign that her efforts are working. Later, she and her mother find the emperor to thank him for the wonderful party. He embraces his daughter, promising many more celebrations in the future. Watching them, Jiu Jiu's mother feels a glimmer of hope, wondering if she can finally trust her husband again. He invites her to join their happy moment, and she agrees with a radiant smile. As they sit together, her father mentions an actor from a foreign land will be performing, along with exotic dancers. The words exotic dancer strike a chord of terror in Jiu Jiu's heart. A vision of a mysterious veiled woman surrounded by butterflies flashes before her eyes, and she is gripped by a terrible realization. This must be the wicked concubine from the book, the one destined to bring ruin to their entire country. In the gilded halls of the palace, a dark premonition grips Princess Jiu Jiu as she remembers a story about a foreign dancer named Hua Rong who came to Western Chu. This woman, a master of bewitching arts, had turned the court upside down, and for the sake of her mother, who was finally beginning to trust her father again, Jiu Jiu vows she must stop this from happening a second time. Her mother, concubine Lai, feels a similar resolve, realizing that since Jiu Jiu only thinks about her, she shouldn't keep running away from the emperor's affection. She sees this as the perfect opportunity to truly test his loyalty and put her own mind at ease regarding the enchanting concubine. Sensing the impending disaster, Jiu Jiu pulls on her father's sleeve, claiming she's not sleepy and wants to leave, trying to prevent him from seeing the performance at all. But a split second later, she changes her mind, realizing with a grimace that she needs to see it to stop them from meeting. Her plan is immediately thwarted when another lord declares the arrival of foreign powers is a perfect chance to showcase Western Chu's strength, urging the emperor to summon more princes to witness it together. To Jiu Jiu's horror, her own mother agrees, leaving the young princess spiraling in panic, wondering how things went so wrong. With a tense look, Jiu Jiu braces herself as the dance troupe is announced. The moment is upon them. A figure emerges, veiled and surrounded by ethereal butterflies, her beauty already palpable. The woman introduces herself as Hua Rong, greeting the emperor and expressing her honor at performing for him, hoping to please his majesty. Jiu Jiu's mind races. This dancer is more beautiful than anyone in the imperial harem, and she knows with terrifying certainty that if her father falls for this woman, they are all completely doomed. After the performance, Hua Rong confidently asks the emperor if he enjoyed it, certain in her heart that her studied seduction techniques are irresistible and that Western Chu will soon be hers for the taking. But the emperor merely glances at her with disinterest, stating he thought it would be good but it was nothing special and he has no desire to watch anymore. Jiu Jiu is shocked by his calm demeanor, wondering what image she even has in his heart. The emperor then turns to concubine Lai, declaring that Hua Rong's performance wasn't even 1% as beautiful as her usual appearance, leaving concubine Lai stunned and touched. Concubine Lai reflects on his shocking lack of reaction. Any other ruler would have taken such a beauty, but he was completely unmoved, and she realizes all these changes were because of Jiu Jiu. She pulls her daughter close, whispering that she likes her so much. The emperor smiles, adding that he loves Jiu Jiu too, before turning his gaze to concubine Lai and declaring that he loves her the most. Concubine Lai blushes, telling him he must be drunk, but he insists he has never been more sober. Jiu Jiu feels a wave of relief, realizing her father now only has eyes for her mother. With the tension broken, the emperor encourages everyone to relax and enjoy themselves, and Jiu Jiu closes her eyes, content as long as her parents are happy, feeling that her image as a good daughter has been preserved. Just then, her brother arrives to greet their father, claiming he's been studying diligently and came to pay respects. Jiu Jiu's inner voice immediately scoffs, thinking he's the same bully as before and is just embarrassed. The prince freezes, hearing her thoughts loud and clear even though she never opened her mouth. He has a terrifying realization. He can hear her inner thoughts, the true feelings of a national enchantress, and if he ever reveals this to their father, she would be finished. Unaware of his discovery, Jiu Jiu is already thinking about how to get revenge on him for his past schemes, seeing this as a perfect opportunity that just fell into her lap.